Okay, Scott, what did you think about Avengers Endgame?
So, upon walking out of the theater, the first thought in my head was, this is the greatest film I have ever seen. Now, about, I don't know, like what, 48, 64 hours removed from that,
Something like that.
maybe not that intense of a feeling, but still pretty intense. And it's definitely up there towards my, I don't know, obligatory top three, top five, whatever you want to call it. It was an extremely well done and well put together piece, and it was a beautiful work of art and all sorts of other lovely superfluous adjectives that we'll use to describe it over the next, I don't know,
God knows how
hour or
long.
however long we ramble on for. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did you think?
Um so I'll just approach it from the same place that you did. When I walked out of the theater, I felt sated. I felt like everything that we've been watching happen over the past 10 years came to a conclusion that I think maybe couldn't have been done better.
Yep, I would agree with that.
I don't think that anything could have been more fitting. I mean, sure, like we can quibble about like, well, I wish this character had a different outcome or I wish that character got to do something else, but like I don't feel like any character was done dirty. I don't think anybody didn't get to really do their part, except maybe Mantis, which was brought to my attention that Mantis doesn't really do anything in this movie, which is a bit
I
of a
would,
bummer, but
I would
like,
say, I would say a few of the characters that came in towards the end did just because like it was the last like half hour of the film,
yeah,
but
and they're just
they're
kind of like
like
in there for being
fan
there,
service.
basically.
Yeah, like any complaints or quibbles are very small and very minute in the grand scale of things. Also, before we go any deeper, I should probably say if you haven't seen it yet, spoilers. I don't know when we're actually going to put this up or when Nick is going to put it up.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
gonna
just go ahead
guess
and
it'll probably be
timestamp this.
yeah.
We are recording this on April 28th, 2019 at 3:21 p.m. Avengers Endgame has been out for 3 days.
Yeah, it came out on Thursday.
Yeah, so we're doing this pretty early. I might upload this a week from today, just
That's
to
probably a
give
good
people
idea.
ample time to go see it and not click on it and not have that temptation because God knows on Thursday I was like fidgeting in my chair at work trying to keep myself from going to Wikipedia and just reading the summary. Like the
Yeah.
story of this movie, it has been such a curiosity for me and such a like a desperation of knowledge that
hmm
I really wanted to know how they were gonna pull off the magic trick.
Right.
Because, at the center of this thing is effectively a magic trick. They have
Yes.
to deal with the shit that happened in Infinity War, which I mean was devastating. And
Well, and I have to. I've mentioned this to you. I went into Infinity War not knowing that they were breaking it up into two parts.
yeah,
Because the days of my scouring the internet for, like on set film photos while they're working on projects and looking up leaked information well in advance of when a project was released, those days are well behind me. I feel like there were a lot of movies that I basically went into and knew exactly what was going to happen and ruined by doing that. So I don't. Also, I'm not 19 anymore and like work
Hmm.
5 days a week, and
Yeah,
I don't have time for that shit anymore. So I going into Infinity War, I did not know that they were breaking it up. So I walked out of the theater from that going, "Oh my god, what the fuck?" Like I I knew the like I had knowledge of the Infinity Gauntlet and Infinity War comic books, and I know that there was a snap in those,
yeah,
but the way they approached it in the film was much more devastating
it's
and
brutal.
much more heavy-handed. And you walk out just going, like, the fucking bad guys won. Like, what's the point? Like, what are we doing? Like, that's it.
And I
Now, of
mean, you know
course,
how I roll. Like, Empire
yeah,
Strikes Back is my favorite Star Wars movie until The Last Jedi came out, and then now that's my favorite Star Wars movie. And in both of those, the bad guys basically come away as the victor.
yes, yes,
Like, I really like that because especially when it's in the middle of a story, it puts the onus on the next movie, the next chapter of the story,
hmm
to be the most triumphant part of the story.
right, yes. To see
And
them go from their lowest of lows to the absolute highest of highs
right, and they
in a
really
one movie
really
about a
nailed that
face.
in Endgame,
Yeah. hmm
especially with Thor. I think
Yeah,
Thor
you
might be the highlight
definitely.
of the movie for me.
I think you see him at his lowest of lows, at his highest of highs. Also, let's get this out of the way. What are your thoughts on Thor basically becoming the dude?
So
Like,
Thor Lebowski is I don't think I could have envisioned a better version of Rock Bottom for him. Like because we know from anytime he gets to hang out with the Warriors 3 in either the first or second movie, we know that the dude likes to party
mhm.
and he's always been that way. But
But to
like
see him
to see
drunk
him
and
rely on
shirtless,
partying for
a
like
giant gut, hanging out with Corgan Meek, literally playing Fortnite
literally
and
playing
yelling at
fucking
12-year
Fortnite.
olds over Xbox Live might have been the funniest thing that
It's
I never would have expected in one of these movies.
it's really funny. And I don't think that playing that for a joke, like playing, Korgan Meek basically enabling Thor, I don't think that like giving him because I don't really think it is played for I mean obviously Fortnite is played for a joke, but I don't think Thor hitting rock bottom like this is really played for a joke. I think it's like, oh my god, what happened to Thor? Like because we see him in Ragnarok rise to become a king, the king that he's always
Right.
told
He
he's supposed to be.
he fulfills like, what everyone the role that everyone always foresaw for him, what Odin
Yeah,
foresaw, what his mother foresaw, what the Warriors 3 foresaw.
right. And then
Now,
in Infinity War, he basically takes all of that pressure and blows
and
it.
yeah, and pisses it away.
Yeah,
Now, do you want to actually like backtrack a bit and we'll kind of start from the beginning of the
we can
movie
go
and
through
work
it
our
beat
way
by beat.
forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So, Endgame basically picks up like what? I think it's like a month. The
It's like
exact date
22
is like
days.
28 days or something. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
because it
picks
starts
up about a
off. Well, technically, it starts off the same day because the cold open with Hawkeye and his family happens on the day.
right. So you get a cold open where Hawkeye, which they showed in the trailer, where he's hanging out with his kids and stuff, and then they all get snapped
It's fucked
except
up.
for Hawkeye.
It's
Yeah,
really
it's
fucked
it's
up.
pretty
He's
fucked.
like, teaching his daughter how to be an archer,
And
and
and based on the trailer where it shows him running
I thought
around
that was gonna
in
be
his Ronin costume, just like basically killing
the Terminator,
gangsters.
being the
Yeah,
Terminator.
yeah. Like you had a thought that, oh man, he's gonna like going in. You especially when they first showed it, you were like, oh my god, they're all gonna fucking die.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is something that actually happens in the comic books. In the Ultimates 2, his whole family actually gets assassinated by the Black Widow of all people.
Yeah.
So they didn't pull that one out of thin air. That was
Nope.
actually based in comic book lore.
Nope. And the
Um,
Ronin outfit I think is basically spot on comic accurate.
it was extremely accurate. They didn't give him a katana, which he uses
No,
as
they gave
Ronin, but
him a
they did.
really cool sword though.
Yeah, they gave him a one sided sword that was very reminiscent of a katana,
It
which
has
had
like
more
a
of a Western
razor
feel
edge
to it.
too.
Yeah, it worked. It suits better with his character. They basically combined the Hawkeye identity with the Ronin identity, and
Yeah,
it worked really well.
I think so.
Um, but yeah, basically, so the cold open, Hawkeye loses his family, and then it goes to 28 days later, which is also where the post credit scene from Captain Marvel picks up,
Yeah.
where they're trying to figure out, what the hell they need to do, and they show Tony and Nebula in that starship stranded in space.
Which I think
They're
it's not the Milano, it's the Benatar. It's the ship
Yes,
from Guardians 2.
Yes, it's that one. And like Nebula's fine, I think, because Nebula's an android, but
Right,
Tony's
she doesn't really need to
basically
eat.
yeah, Tony's basically on death's door because he hasn't had anything to eat for 20 days or whatever. And
Yeah, it's like
I think
22
they did
days.
this. Yeah, I think they did the same thing that they did with Cap in the first Avenger, where they had a body double
Yeah, because he's like
stand in for him.
emaciated.
He's like skinnier than me in that scene. Like he
Yeah.
does not look good. He does not look healthy.
No, not at all. You
And
can see like his ribs.
yeah, so he's like recording like a last message for Pepper, and he kind of like nods off to sleep, like he's basically about to die. And Nebula puts him in the like pilot's chair of the ship, and then all of a sudden Captain Marvel shows up and flies them back to Earth. So that he regroups there with the remaining Avengers from the original Snap. So at this point, it's Cap, Rhodey, Pepper's there.
Nat's
Trying to think
there.
who else. Yeah, Nat's there, and then Bruce and Thor.
Well, they find Bruce later, don't they?
I
Like
thought
they
he was there already with them, or did he?
I think they track him down later at that restaurant in New York. Because
No, no, no.
I remember the
That was
reveal
after.
of
No,
like
no, no. You're thinking of later. May.
you're right, you're right.
Yeah. So they all meet up and they all decide like, and Tony's basically resigned to the whole thing. He's like, guys, we fucked up. I'm done with this shit. Peace
Yeah.
out. Like
Yeah.
he's not in a good place.
No, he
And
like rails on Cap, like he calls him a liar and a traitor, like to his
they have
face.
clearly not patched things up since Civil War.
No.
They're still not on good terms.
Yeah, no, that the bad blood from the Sokovia Accords is still very like very very
fresh.
thick.
Yeah. So so they so it's they managed to track down where Thanos is at. So Cap, Nat,
Nebula
Rhodey, Nebula,
and Thor.
Banner, Thor, and Captain Marvel all suit up and get into the ship and go to this planet where Thanos is at, his like farm that he retired to at the
Yeah,
end of
we get to see basically
Infinity
what
War.
happened after his ending in Infinity War.
Right.
The Scarecrow
And
is still there, and
yeah, and that
he's got
is
the farm and shit.
right, and that is actually out of the Infinity Gauntlet comic book. That is how that book ends.
Yep.
The same thing happens. But yeah, so they go and find him, and they're expecting him to have the gauntlet, to have the stones.
Yeah, no, they come into this place guns fucking blazing.
Yeah.
Like Carol goes down to the
Yeah.
she goes down to the planet to do recon, and she's like, "There's no armies, there's no satellites,
Yeah,
it's
they're
just
like,
him."
it's just him. So they go there, and Carol like, I think they rip his arm off, don't they?
No, she careens into the building and crashes into him.
Yeah,
And,
she fucks him up big
She
time.
like
And
grabs him and holds him, and then fucking I'm pretty sure at that point Bruce holds him down, Cap holds him down, and then Thor comes in and cuts his arm with the gauntlet off with Stormbreaker.
right, but then what they discover, to their horror, and what he explains to them, is he used the stones to destroy the stones.
So that
Like,
what he
they're
did cannot be undone.
there are no more Infinity Stones, and he is also, his body has also been ravaged. By
Oh yeah,
doing
no,
this.
he's fucked up.
The entire he has a gauntlet on the left side, right on his left hand.
I think so.
Yeah, like the entire left side of his body like is burnt and crispy, like prequel Anakin Skywalker burnt and crispy. It's not pretty looking.
Yeah, no.
And he so Thor just fucking loses it and straight up decapitates him with Stormbreaker.
While
Like-
he's in mid-sentence.
Like literally just fucking cuts his
Unceremoniously just decapitates Thanos.
and
Blood
there's-
spurt and everything.
Yeah, like it's pretty brutal.
The grape
And-
juice is flowing.
Yeah, and they were only able to get away with that without an R rating, probably because it was grape juice and not
Yeah.
tomato juice. Yeah.
No, much like how Infinity War is basically as close to an R rating as Marvel might ever get, this one continues that trend. It's
Yes.
pretty fucking pretty
Yeah.
fucking violent.
So they're they're all just like they're like, we can't do anything. We can't undo this. So they just kind of are resigned to it. So then we get a time. So it is
5
now.
years.
Yeah,
2023.
it is an extreme time skip.
Yeah.
And we also learned that it is a baseball movie because they show a flyover of.
Yeah, this counts now.
Yeah, they
Put it
show
in the
a
list.
flyover of fuck, why can't I think of the name? Not Shea, that's the old
The
state.
Met Stadium.
Why can't I think of its name? I
It's
should know this. Oh, this is
shit.
gonna bother me. All right, timeout. Hang on.
I can't remember what it is, but they do mention the Mets like in the next scene.
Okay, City Field. Okay,
City Field.
They
Okay.
show a flyover of an empty City Field.
Yeah, no, and everything that they show a flyover of is empty. Everything in New York is eerily empty.
Yeah, like it's like basically people have had to adjust to life without half of the entire universe's population.
Yeah.
And
Cap, we see Cap leading the
he's in a
support
support
group
group.
that
Yeah,
he was doing that in Civil War too.
it's a support group for like, hey, how do we adjust and move on
Yeah.
with all these people gone? And
And Joe
like
Russo
people,
makes a cameo in that scene.
yeah, and people are not doing it.
No, people
Like it
can't
is
make connections. People can't
things.
deal anymore.
Things are very bleak,
Shit's bad.
and from there, do we see Tony next? Is that where, or no? Does it, or no? It shows Nat is at the
Yeah,
old.
yeah, it shows like a meeting of the remaining Avengers
Yeah,
who are
she.
actively trying to make
Yeah.
things better.
So basically, everyone is out in different parts of the world and universe doing recon. Um, the the Wakandan woman who survived this.
Okoye.
Yes, she is in Wakanda, basically, presumably running the show there. Since
Did you notice what she said, by the way?
what did she say?
She said that there were earthquakes in the sea. That sounds awfully Namor-ish to me.
That was something I had not even thought of. That could be, yeah, because that's the thing, and we'll get into this. There are a ton of little Easter eggs that they could potentially
Oh my
follow
god.
up on.
Yeah,
for
no,
future.
there's
But
a stupid
anyway,
amount of Easter eggs in this fucking thing.
Yeah, she is trying to hold down the fort in Wakanda. Rocket, who is now sporting a comic book accurate outfit with his little scarf / cape thing, which
It looks so good.
Yeah, Rocket actually gets a lot of screen time in this, which I was fairly pleased with.
Yeah,
He
Rocket's
was
like one
a
of the
fully
most
fleshed out and developed character. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. No, Rocket gets maybe the most screen time out of any of like the non-Big Six Avengers.
Yeah, any of the main core. Yeah. So he is he just like in space, basically working with what are left, trying to keep.
It kind of seems that way, where he's just like off trying to stop the fires.
Yeah, and then
because we know Carol is out there.
Yeah,
that's what she's always been doing.
At this point, it's worth mentioning Carol does not get a ton of screen time in this, and the main reason is that she is just so OP and above everyone else.
Yeah.
That like she's not needed, honestly. Like she is needed in other parts of the universe.
And she makes that clear many times.
Yeah. She's like, guys, you're not the only planet that's fucked. Like,
yeah,
I have to be in other places right now. Like Thanos is dead. There's nothing I can do to help you guys.
Right. Yeah. No. There's a lot of fires that need putting out everywhere else in the galaxy, or in the universe, and like Earth is fucked, but you guys are holding it down.
Right. And I feel.
And she cuts her hair.
Yes, she is now more comic book accurate, and actually the outfit she's wearing is more reminiscent. Original Captain Marvel outfit.
Yeah.
With the reverse blue and dark navy, or reverse red and dark navy color scheme, which I really liked what they did with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, she looks like straight off the page Carol Danvers.
Yes. And then there's there's two other people because it's the setup. It's a lot like in I don't know what it is with all the Star Wars prequel references that are floating around in my head. I guess it's from Angela sending me a ton of prequel
Prequel
memes
memes.
recently. But like these are all like holograms of everyone that Nat is in conversation with.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
like the Shield meeting
yeah,
in Winter
yeah.
Soldier.
So it's like the three of them. I think there's a fourth person,
Rhodey's there.
and then Rhodey. Well, there's Rhodey, and I thought there was someone else. Or was there just four of them?
It's Nat,
It's
Rocket, Carol,
Rocket.
Okoye, and Rhodey. I think that's it.
Okay. So then Rhodey's last bit is he's I guess he was in like Mexico or New Mexico.
He's
Like
basically hunting
keeping
down whoever's killing
drug
all these
cartel.
gangs.
Yeah, and
They
he
think that
is,
it's Barton.
yes, they think he has gone completely off the deep end.
Which they're right about.
Yes. So Nat wraps up her what basically amounts to a teleconference with all these folks, and Steve walks in and they start kind of chit chatting, and they're just like, "Yeah, everything's fucked. This really sucks." And is it then that we see Tony, or do we find out where Scott Lang has been next? I can't remember which.
I
comes
think
next.
then we catch up with Scott
Okay,
because
so
we cut to a shot of this like rundown shitty garage that's got a bunch of cages with people's names on them and all their belongings in.
Belongings that were left behind have generic some kind of federal facility.
Yeah, and in there is the ex-con van with the quantum tunnel in it.
From Ant-Man and Wasp. And not surprisingly, because it is a Disney movie, a fucking mouse saves the day.
Hey, it's a rat, get it right.
Okay, yeah, it is a rat, it's not a mouse. And it turns on the quantum generator and spits out Scott.
Like in the middle of this like shit heap of random assorted garbage.
And he has no idea what's going on. He for him, he thinks it's been 5 since, he left. Like he doesn't know anything about Thanos or the Infinity Stones or the Snap or anything. He has no clue what's going on.
Right, because while all of that shit was happening, he was doing quantum experiments with the Pims.
Yes. And who were all snapped at the end of, in the post-credits scene of Ant-Man and the Wasp. So he gets out of the shit heap and is just kind of wandering streets, and you're seeing houses with piled up garbage. There's just crap everywhere. He walks by this kid who's riding a bike who just looks like super emo and depressed. So basically every 14-year-old from 10 or 15 years ago.
Coupled with the telephone poles that are literally covered to the point where you can't see any wood anymore with missing posters. Yeah, it's fucked up.
And he asks the kid, he's like, "Hey kid, what the hell happened?" Funny look and rides away.
Kid's basically like, "Fuck off, old man."
Yeah.
Even though Paul Rudd doesn't look a day over 35.
Yeah. Eventually, he manages to make it to the Avengers compound in upstate New York. And he's like, "Hey guys, it's me, Scott Lang. What's going on?" Or actually, you know what? No, before he does that,
he goes to the park.
He finds his home and meets up with
Cassie,
a now teenage Cassie.
Yeah, who I thought was going to get a suit in this movie. I thought, hey, they went through all the trouble of casting a 15, 16-year-old Cassie.
Well,
maybe they're going to make her Stinger.
I thought they were going to bring in Kate as Hawkeye.
Me too.
So those are two other potential, plot points for future movies. But anyway, so he goes to the Avengers facility, and Nat and Steve are just kind of hanging around in the compound, and he pops up on their front door cam, and he's like, "Hey guys, it's me. Let me in."
Yeah, this was one of the trailers.
Yeah, so they start chatting with him, and he basically theorizes that, hey, with what I've been doing in the quantum zone, I think gives us the capability basically to time. So we can go back, get the Infinity Stones before Thanos fucked everything up, and fix this. And so they're like, all right, we've got nothing better to do. Let's give this shit a shot.
Yeah, and
So
they
they
make,
go
of
on to
course, like
find.
1,000 time travel movie references, like
Oh my god, yeah, literally every like time travel movie from the '80s is referenced at some
and Die
point.
Hard, even though it's not one.
Yeah, yeah. Scott makes a comment. He's like, "Did Die Hard have time travel?" He's like,
No.
"Yeah." And there's a lot of like Back to the Future lied to me lines,
Yeah.
which are pretty good.
The
But
thing that I
they,
liked the most about that whole sequence is like when they're like, well, can't we just go back and kill baby Thanos? And Hulk is like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. Like, that's
yeah,
not
I
how
think it's
time
actually
travel
Rhodey who has
works.
that.
Yeah,
He's like,
I think Scott is like, we should just go back and kill baby Thanos, and Rhodey is like, dude, that's horrible. Hulk is like, that's not
no,
how it
it's
works,
actually
and Rhodey
yeah,
goes, and that's terrible.
yeah. No, it was pretty funny. So yeah, they do track down Banner, who intelligent Hulk form, and mentally is in a much much better place than we've seen him in any
Oh
previous
yeah,
movie.
I
He
really
has
think
fully
that failing so much in Infinity War did wonders for Bruce because he kind of stopped trying to fight the Hulk.
yeah
And I mean that happens in the comics too, right? The Professor Hulk thing.
yeah no that was I want to say that was in like the early to mid '80s when he
Mm,
was Professor Hulk.
yeah.
But basically, he throughout the whole movie he is hulked out, but he has access to Banner's intelligence and eloquence.
And
So
he's performance captured by Mark Ruffalo, so he looks like just a hulked out Mark Ruffalo,
yeah, so they've basically become one. There is no separation.
which I
Like,
liked.
yeah, and he's so accepted. Like, there's a part where like kids come up to him while they're eating at a restaurant, take a selfie. With
And then he
like
dabs.
it's yeah, it's great.
It's
So
so corny. I
and
love
it,
it.
and it's really funny because he has the typical line where they're like, "Well, time machine." He's like, "Guys, I'm not that kind of scientist. Like, how many of these shit movies have you watched?"
Yeah.
But yeah, they eventually get him to buy in. So then they go to Tony.
Yeah, and
So
then we
we
get to
find
see what Tony's been doing for 5 years.
yeah. So Tony has a log cabin in the woods, basically. He has literally shacked up with Pepper and now has a 4-year-old daughter.
Who's
So
adorable.
immediately your heart drops and you're like, oh fuck.
See, I
So
I still I was holding out hope. I didn't
yeah,
think, I thought maybe he'll come out of this.
yeah, we weren't 100% sure, but I'm like, oh god, he has a kid. What are they doing? So her name is Morgan, named after Morgan Stark, who in this continuity is his eccentric uncle. In the comics continuity, Morgan Stark is actually a cousin of Tony's,
Hmm,
who was first introduced way back in the Tales of Suspense days back in the '60s.
no shit.
Yep, no, he's been around for a long
I
time.
lost out on that one.
I am well, and we'll when we wrap this up, I'm going to go a bit into Iron Man and my own history and knowledge of the character and all sorts of stuff.
Oh yeah,
But
because your Iron Man knowledge goes deep.
I have a whole bit prepared for that I have like actively rehearsed in my mind. So
Wow.
when we get there, we'll get there. Um, so let's think here. So he's they've got this kid and he is happy. He is genuinely happy
Oh yeah,
with
no,
life.
this is
Like
the happiest that we've ever seen Tony Stark.
yeah, he's married to Pepper. They have a daughter. They're all living together. He still tinkers, as evidenced by the fact that the daughter walks out wearing an Iron Man-esque helmet that he describes as, "Oh, I built that for mommy, but she doesn't like anything that I built."
Yeah, she
So
doesn't wear anything I buy for her.
yeah, so right off the get-go, we know that Rescue is going to be in this, which makes me so happy.
Oh
But
yeah.
again, we'll go more into that
That's one of
later.
my favorite parts of Iron Man 3. And it's
Yes,
barely a cameo.
yeah, but they end up. So they're there, and then I think it's. Uh, does Clint come with them? I think it did. Nat go and find Clint where they met back up
No,
with
I
Tony?
think I think it's
It's
just
Steve, Banner,
Bruce.
and Scott. I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just Bruce, Steve, and Scott, and then Nat goes off to find to go find Clint.
Yeah. So they go to find him, and he's like, "Guys, I want no part of this." The line I think he says is, "If you don't talk shop, you can stay for dinner."
Yeah, the table's set for 6.
Yeah. So
But
and
what's kind of like jarring about it is
mhm,
that all of that bad blood that we saw previously with Steve and
between
Tony,
Steve and
it's
Tony,
totally
it's
gone.
gone.
He's
Yeah.
like Tony is so content
Yeah.
in this 5-year time skip. He really found what makes him the happiest, and like everything else is just done. Like,
Yeah.
he's but what brings him back is after the all
After
the
they
Avengers
leave.
leave,
Yeah.
he sees this picture of him and Peter, and he's like, "Fuck.
I
There's
miss
still
that
one thing that
character.
I
Yeah.
don't have that I wish I
Yeah.
had."
So so you see him actually tinkering with you know whatever program or
With
AI or
magic Tony Stark
yeah,
holograms.
time loop thing that Scott Lang proposed and Hulk tinkered with a little bit, and he fixes it. He
Like
generates
immediately.
possible time travel,
Yeah.
and he goes in and talks with Pepper, and he's like, "Look, I've done this. I can shut it down now, though, if you're happy." And she's like, "Honey, you have to do this. Like, you can't like." And it's so refreshing to see a couple like that so in sync with each other, and
Mm-hmm.
like obviously this is not in Pepper's best
Oh,
interest, but
absolutely not. She
out
pretty
of
much
her own
knows, like,
selflessness and Tony's selflessness at this point, she's just like, we can't do this. You have to do this.
yeah, and the
Like
thing
you have
that's
to bring
really
everyone
nice about
back.
this is like you can see it in Gwyneth Paltrow's performance immediately when he
Yes.
comes up and says, "Hey, so I did it." She's like, "What did you do?" And he goes, "Figured out time travel." And immediately a gear switches in her head, and you can see she's like, "Okay, well, you know, this was nice, but I see where this is going." And
Yeah.
it's like, because she could, I mean, she absolutely could, because he'd listen to her, just say,
Hmm.
you can't
Don't
do
do it.
this. You
Yeah.
can't throw this away.
You have a
But,
daughter.
she
We have a
knows
life
him better,
together.
and she
Yeah.
knows herself, and I don't think she would be able to sleep if, she told Tony not to go save half the
Right.
universe's population.
Yeah. So he gets to work on he heads over to the Avengers. Meanwhile, we see Clint in Japan literally filleting members of the Yakuza.
just just left and right, like
Like
like it's Devil May Cry, just like
yeah,
slicing through these dudes like they're nothing.
like he goes like full one-on-one like sword duel with some Yakuza boss
Yeah.
and basically like seppuku's the guy.
It looks so effortless too. Like
Yeah.
it looks like all of the clashes that they do, he's just fucking with the guy and making him
Yeah,
think
he's
that he
just
has a
not even
chance.
like this guy, whoever this actor was, clearly had some background in fight choreography
Oh yeah,
training
he's
because
a very long
yeah,
time action
he
movie
gives
guy.
off he gives off the impression of trying really hard in this,
Yeah.
and Clint is just like he's like, dude, I'm toying with you, so I don't even know
He's
what you're.
like breaking negative sweat.
Yeah, and he cuts his throat and then runs the guy through, and Nat is there, and she's like, "What have you done to yourself? Like, what are you doing?" And we see him because he's wearing a hood and he has a face mask on.
Yeah. So
And
when
we
he
see
finally
him,
reveals,
yeah, he pulls the hood down, he takes off the face mask, he turns around, and his face is just completely lost and filled with anguish.
oh
Like,
yeah, no, he's like Jeremy Renner does a great job in that scene. You can
yeah,
really just see like he
you
has
can read the
nothing
emotion in his
left.
face. Yeah, like there is no purpose to his life. All
Yeah,
that is left.
he's just a killing machine.
Yeah, yeah. So Nat kind of reels him in, brings him a little bit out of that dark place, and they then also head back to the Avengers to
Well,
where
and the way
now,
that she reels him in is she
yeah,
says like, "I think we have a chance to reverse this and get everyone back." And he's
yeah,
like, "You can't tell me that, dude. Like I've thrown away everything."
yeah. He's like, don't do that to me. Don't give me hope. And she's like, if I did, I'd be lying.
Yeah, that
And
line is heavy.
yeah,
Don't give me hope.
yeah,
Like
don't give me
shit.
hope. Yeah, like he is fully resigned to this. Like he was basically going to keep killing until someone killed him.
Basically.
So they, which I thought they were building up to an on-screen Hawkeye death with as many times as he died in the comics and as many death fake outs as he had in Ultron, but we'll
Yeah.
get to that when we get there. So she brings him into the fold, and then we get back to the compound where Scott, Cap, and Hulk and Rhodey are working on this time travel.
Yeah, they're basically like doing back to the drawing board style
Yeah,
experiments where they're like, okay, well
and
let's see if this works, and they
yeah,
keep
and yeah,
switching
they keep
Scott's age. They keep
yeah. There's a pretty
pushing
good
time through him
yeah
instead of pushing him through
yeah.
time.
So first he comes back as a teenager, then he comes back as a baby, then he comes back as an old man, then he comes back as himself, and he's like, guys, someone peed in my suit. And
I
I
don't know
don't
if
know
it
if
was
it was
baby me or old me
baby
or
me,
just
or
me.
just me.
It's such a good line.
Yeah, yeah. He was the comedic foil for everyone else in this movie,
Basically,
but
yeah.
he plays that role really well, and he has a lot of really good like heroic moments in this too. Like it's
Yeah.
not like this isn't like Richard Pryor in Superman 3.
No,
Like
no, not at all.
yeah, like he has a very substantial role.
Well, and I mean,
Um,
he doesn't have to bear all of the comedic weight too.
yeah,
Like
no,
Hulk has
and
some
there is
good
more.
jokes, and
Yeah,
Rocket definitely has some good jokes, and I mean,
yeah,
even Thor in his dejected state, like he still gets some zingers in there. Like
yeah,
he has
yeah,
a talk about how like he basically has a speech which was the Russo saying, "Listen, we know that Thor: The Dark World is a piece of shit, so let's just make fun of it." And like his Hemsworth's delivery in that scene is golden.
yes. So they end up. So Tony comes up to the compound, meets Cap outside, and they shake hands, and they officially like purge all the bad blood.
Yeah,
Like they
they
are back
make up.
now, and they like Tony's like Scott turned into a baby, didn't he? And he shows them he shows them how to fix that issue, and
With
they
a
can
fancy
basically.
watch.
So they test it with Clint, and you see him end up back at the day of the snap before everything got snapped.
Yeah,
And he brings back
hours before.
yeah.
Nobody was
So
outside.
he brings back one of his kids' baseball gloves. And what they basically establish in time travel in this, to my mind, is actually fairly similar to time travel in Dragon Ball, where basically every time you go back, you're creating a new parallel timeline,
Yeah.
but it doesn't affect your own existing timeline.
Right, because your past can't become your present.
Right, exactly.
So I like the way that they do this, where they
Yeah.
splinter off realities
Right.
that they've now altered.
Right. So what they do is they decide that they can go back to various points in time to gather all the information. So in the year 2012, there are 3 Infinity Stones in New York. There's the Tesseract.
Which is the
There
Space
is
Stone.
yeah. There's the stone in Loki's staff,
Which is the
which
Mind
is the
Stone.
Mind Stone, and there is
The Eye of Agamotto, which is the
yeah,
Time Stone.
yes, the stone that the ancient one has.
Yep.
So
Which they think it's going to be Doctor Strange because they didn't realize that
right,
he had only done that, pretty recently.
right. So they go to
They basically split this off into 3 teams where
right. Well,
they
first we have to talk a little bit more about Thor, because before they even decide to do all this, we're back to where we kind of started now. So
they kind of like brainstorm how they're gonna do this.
Where all the stones are at and how they're gonna do this.
Yeah, so they need to go get Thor first, and Thor is in Sweden. he has taken all of the Asgardian refugees to a town in Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they meet up with Valkyrie first, who is fine and awesome.
Thank God, not dead.
Yeah, because is her name Emma Thompson?
Tessa Thompson.
Tessa Thompson. I'm sorry. So yeah, she is her normal awesome self, And she's like, yeah, you might have a problem getting Thor back. So then they find him, and as we mentioned, he is a
He's basically let
drunken,
himself go
yeah,
in
a drunken
complete
fat bastard.
PTSD
Yeah,
depression.
and he, as we first described, he has become Lebowski,
Yeah.
and you know, again, he is literally spending his time drinking and playing Fortnite with Korg and Meek, and they basically convince him to come back because, hey, we. And so they bring him back, and he's actually the first one who tells them, like, hey, we can go back and get the stones. So, as we said, there's 3 in New York in 2012. There are 2 in space in 2014. There is the Mind Stone, and there is, what's the one that Quill got?
He has the Power Stone,
The Power Stone, yeah.
and that's in Morag.
Yes. And
There are
then
2
in
in space.
2013, there is the.
The Ether,
Yes.
which is the Reality Stone.
Yes. And that one is in Asgard, or
That
like
one's
the Dark
inside
World.
Jane
Yeah.
Foster, who is in
Yeah.
Asgard.
Yes. So they end up. So Cap, Tony, Scott, and Bruce all go to New York
In
to get
2012.
in 2012 to get those.
Yep.
Rhodey and Nebula go to space to get the Power Stone.
Yeah, Rhodey and Nebula basically they land on Morag, and then they kind of split up after this.
Yes. And
And
then
then Clint and Nat go to Vormir, where the Soul Stone is,
yes.
where
And
Red
then
Skull is.
yes. So everybody's got their missions, and they have this really neat beat where you get your nice slow mo shot of them walking time machine in the special suits,
Yep,
and
from
they
the
all
trailer.
kind of put their hands all in, and so they're ready to go.
I
And
noticed,
then
by the way, that when they all put their hands in, it kind of resembles the arc reactor that Tony's.
I'm 100% convinced that was not on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes, it resembles Tony's original arc reactor.
Yeah, the one that's encased in glass that Pepper gave
Yes.
him at the end of the first
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, and then Thor and Rocket go to.
Yeah,
to
Thor
get,
and Rocket go to Asgard to
yes.
get the ether from Jane. So
Right.
the way that they split these up, like every team has at least one person who's been there before and who knows where the stone
What's
is going to
going
be.
on, yeah, and where to get. And it's really interesting. Play out old beats from previous movies, but then add new stuff to it. So,
Yeah,
like for example,
it's Back to the Future too.
Yeah, when they go to New York, we see what happens between them getting shawarma and taking Loki back to Asgard in handcuffs.
There's
Like we
basically
see,
a line about them going to get shawarma too.
yeah,
After after Loki says, "I think I'll take that drink now," then they wheel him away, take him downstairs, and before they leave the building, Robert Redford's character from Winter Soldier comes out and he says, "Hey, where are you taking that guy?" And Thor says, "First to lunch, then to Asgard." So it's like, yeah, they're gonna go get shawarma right now.
yeah, yeah. And it's also, I always forget how old Robert Redford actually is, because my biggest exposure to him is just watch The Natural.
Oh yeah,
And he's still kind of old in that, but not that old. He's like, what, 30, that character?
I have no idea.
But anyway, yeah, so that's what I think of when I think of Robert Redford. So then to see him just like looking like older than sin, it's like really disconcerting. But
Yeah.
anyway, so they end up, Hulk goes and meets with the Ancient One, and he's able to convince her, like, look, Doctor Strange gave the stone to Thanos and said it was the only way. And the Ancient One, being the Ancient One, knows that Stephen Strange, like, she knows what's going to happen. She's like, you're 5 years too early. Like, he's not the Doctor.
Yeah,
And
because when Bruce shows up on the roof of the Sanctum Sanctorum, not only is the Ancient One there instead of Stephen Strange, but she's like fending off
she's
the
like
Chitauri.
actively defending New York from
Yeah,
the
she's
Sanctorum.
well, she's basically defending the
doing her job.
Sanctorum while the rest of New York is getting blown to shit. But she's doing
Yes.
her job in protecting the Time
Hmm.
Stone, and Banner walks up and says, "Hey, I need that stone," and she
Right.
goes, no,
No.
that's not how this works." And then
Yeah.
she does the astral push where she pushes Banner out of the Hulk body, and from
And this is
there
actually
he has to basically like state his case for why the
right.
stone needs to come
And
back
it's
with him.
interesting because this is actually the only time. Then I think he might be in a couple flashes. Or is he just Hulk and Flash?
I don't think he is Banner anytime other
Yeah.
than that. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
we
This
only
is
see human Mark Ruffalo in that one scene.
yeah. So he discusses this with her and tells her like, look, Doctor Strange gave this thing to Thanos, like, and he said it was the only way. And she's like, well, shit, you're right.
Basically,
Better, yeah, better bring this back, big guy.
yeah, because
So
she
from there,
explains to him
yeah,
that, if we take these stones one by one out of their timeline, that will create timelines where the stones aren't, and it'll be really bad for them. So
yes.
you need to
So
bring these back to
right,
exactly where you took them from after you do what you do in your timeline.
yeah. So right there, we establish that at some point there is going to be tracking and returning of
Yeah.
after they've done the thing. So Hulk gets the time stone, so mission accomplished on that. But and Steve ends up getting the one from Loki's staff, and it's really cool how they do this.
It's
He
such a
actually
good scene.
so the team that actually comes to apprehend Loki is the same exact team of corrupted Shield agents who were working for Hydra in Cap 2.
Yeah, Rumlow
So
included.
yes,
Crossbones
so
is there.
pre Crossbones Rumlow. So he gets it, and it's really interesting because it mimics the exact same elevator from the movie where he gets in those guys, and he gets in an elevator with all of them and is standing in the middle of them, and he's like, "Hey, you should give me this staff," and he's like, no, we're taking this," and he's like, "Oh no, it's okay. Hail Hydra."
And then
So they're
they're
like,
like, "Oh!"
oh, all right. So they just give him the staff.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Steve runs into himself from 2012 while carrying the staff, and
And
he's like,
some fantastic
"Guys,
lines
I've got a
happen.
beat on Loki." So that's the other thing. While this is going on, Tony and Scott are going to try and get the test away by giving 2012 Tony a heart attack by having Scott shrink down to get inside of his heart monitor, basically, and deactivate it. And they do it, but then Loki takes the Tesseract and teleports away.
Through shenanigans.
Yeah.
Through
So
shenanigans,
that
they almost lose the Tesseract,
yeah.
and then
No, they
because
do lose that Tesseract.
Loki picks it up right
Yeah.
before they get a chance to take it back.
And we get no resolution on the version of
Yeah, no, that version of Loki is off to Disney Plus land, where
yeah,
he will have his own television show.
exactly. Yep. So that's another beat. So they end up Tony and Scott are like, well, shit. So they just kind of wander off with their tails
Wait in the
between
car. And I don't think we mentioned this before, but they established before the teams all split off to their relative time zones that they only have enough Pym particles for one round trip each.
Yes.
So the fact that Tony and Scott ruined their yeah, they ruined their gig, and that's huge because now they don't have one of the 6 stones, and it's like, oh well, now we're fucked.
Yeah.
But then Tony has an epiphany after Steve gets back to the car with Bruce.
Or we have to one more bit about the thing with Steve. So himself, and there was this great line before where I can't remember who it was. Someone was looking at his ass, and they were talking about how it didn't look good in.
It was Tony. It was Tony. He goes. He goes. Yeah, Cap. That I can't believe how little that suit does for your ass.
Yeah, and Scott has this great line, which I think, in addition to Lebowski Thor, is going to get memed.
Oh yeah.
He says, "You can't say that. That's America's ass."
So America's ass versus.
So Steve is fighting himself and manages to wrestle away Loki's staff with that stone in it. And after he beats himself to a pulp, he kind of looks down and he's like, Damn, that is America's ass.
And before that, another line that I
Yeah.
really liked was when they first start the fight and kind of
Mhm.
clash for the first time, and then
Yeah.
they push each other away.
Mhm.
2012 Cap goes, "I can do this all day," and present day Cap goes, "I know, I know."
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh,
God, I was
and
so insufferable in 2012.
well, and it's funny because Cap has clearly gotten over the whole
Oh yeah,
language
because
thing.
as soon as
He
he
turns
sees
into
2012
Tommy.
Cap walking towards him, he goes,
Yeah.
"You've got to be shitting me."
Well, and the first thing he says when they get fight Thanos for the first time and they show the title, he says, "Let's go get that son of a bitch."
Yeah,
So he clearly has gotten over
yeah,
his
he's
1940s sensibility.
certainly acclimated to present day
Yeah.
standards of bad language.
Yes. So he ends up. So they get 2 out of the 3 stone, which still not great. So they reconvene with Tony and Scott, who are just like sitting in a random car, and they end up.
Well, they basically like kick Scott back
Yeah.
to the
They
present day.
they tell Scott and Bruce to go back. They're like, just get the stones back. We'll take. So they just Tony has an and he's like, the Tesseract was in a Shield facility in 1970. You and I can go there. So he and Cap, because the line that keeps getting repeated is what it takes. Like
Yeah.
everyone who's out doing this is willing to do literally whatever it takes to get these stones because it's the fate of the planet, the fate
Yep.
of the universe. So they they go to 1970. So they go off on their beat. So then we get back to where Nebula, Rhodey, um, what is it? Nat and Clint all are out in space in 2014.
Yeah.
So Rhodey and Nebula managed to take the Power Stone from Quill, and there's this nice
Who
little bit
they
where we see
knock the
him.
fuck out.
Yeah, where we see him dancing to,
Come and get your love.
and it's really funny because we then see what it looked like for everyone not wearing a Walkman.
It's
And
so
he's just
good,
like
and he's
randomly dancing very poorly, like a white guy in his 40s. And there's no music playing. And Rhodey's like, that guy's Star Lord, and Nebula's just like, he's an idiot. And as Nick said, they knock him the fuck out and get the stone. But then we start to run into problems. Rhodey successfully goes back to 2023
with the Power Stone.
With the Power Stone. Nebula does not because her robot brain is still connected to 2014 Nebula.
Yeah, so 2014 Nebula on on 2014 Thanos' ship with 2014 Gamora, who comes in later. The two of them have like a conflict with their robot brain networks. And so 2014 Nebula's brain basically projects like R2-D2 style.
Yeah, it starts showing the memories of 2023 now.
Yeah, and seeing that Rhodey gets the stone and then they go away, and so then Thanos like puts her into this maintenance mode and replays all of 2023 Nebula's memories.
So he sees himself win and then get killed.
Yep.
And this convinces Gamora, like, holy shit, what am I doing with my life? Or 2014 Gamora, that is.
Yeah.
Because this is not the pre-Mind Stone Gamora, like or Soul Stone, like she's gone, she is dead.
Yeah, she doesn't ever come back either.
Right. Yeah, and we'll talk about that at the end as well. So what ends up happening is Thanos is like, well, we gotta stop them. Like, I need to get these stones. So he decides to just kind of let the Avengers do his work for them instead of him going out.
Right, because now they know exactly where they're going to be.
Right. Yes. So he ends up just kind of watching the memories that Nebula is projecting for now. And then we go to 1970 where we see Tony and Cap at this old Shield facility, and it's gloriously dated. It is incredible what these movies have done, like retro fitting and like retro filming, and people have the bad haircuts, the bad clothes, like
oh my god! Not only that, but we get a period accurate Stan Lee thanks to the magic of CGI.
yes, we get one final Stan Lee cameo, and he drives by in a with his glorious, 70s esque disco suit with an open collar down to the nipples with gold chains.
Salt and
He's
pepper
got
hair.
Yeah, he's got full salt and pepper. He's got sideburns going, down to his cheekbones. He's got a handlebar mustache. It is fantastic.
It's
It
like they
is
looked up
so good.
like an exact photo of what he looked like on that specific day in 1970 and recreated it perfectly.
And honestly, that's probably what they did. That is
Probably.
almost certainly what they did. So we get some really good beats at this base. Tony actually winds up running into his dad, who
Of all
is
people.
getting flowers for his 8-month wife or 8-month pregnant wife, who is pregnant with Tony
Yeah.
at that point, who would have
Flowers
been
and
born in,
sauerkraut. Don't forget the
yeah,
sauerkraut.
yes, and it is a very nice, very sweet scene between the two of them.
Yeah.
Tony kind of, works everything out, without telling him who he is. Potts of all things,
Yeah,
and
Howard Potts.
yeah, and they talk about how they're both so nervous being new parents. Tony now being a parent himself, and he just kind of hugs him and he's like, "You'll do, like, thanks for everything."
Yeah,
And
and
then we
it's a
get this
moment that I
great,
really I think that that moment does a lot for Tony, but it also does a lot for Howard. It kind of like
it redeems him a bit as a character because
it
he had some
it
not
redeems him a little bit, but it also gives us a
goals.
lot of insight as to who he is as a father, not so much
Yes,
just as a man, because we see a lot of Howard Stark in the MCU just as a man, and you're like,
yes.
that guy is probably not a great father, and it's like, well, no, but he is trying. It's just that
Mhm.
he wasn't really cut out for this and he wasn't really ready for it, but he
Well,
will
and
do
he
anything. He
he
says it
had
himself.
yeah
He'll do
he has a
anything.
yeah he has a line where it says, there wasn't a father problem my father couldn't solve with a belt,
Right.
which, like, gives you an idea of why he struggles so much with this role. And it really, I think it's a very strong and powerful statement, fathers and fatherhood and sons in general. Like, this is why you had an entire generation of men who didn't know how to raise their kids,
Right.
because their dads were literally hitting them with belts to discipline them. They didn't know what a good figure was.
Yeah.
Like, this whole sequence spoke very strongly to me and to my relationship with my dad and his relationship with his. The reason my dad overcompensates so much as a dad is because his dad, my grandpa, didn't do enough as a dad, whose dad before him, my great grandpa, was a piece of shit who may have been a part of the Irish mob in early 20th century Cleveland,
Holy damn.
and, like, regularly beat his kids and was just an absolute fuck.
Right. So
And,
it's a nice
like,
scene about like breaking the cycle and understanding what it really means to
to
love
be a
your kids
dad
and to
and
be a
to love your
dad that
kids, and it shows where this past generation is coming. All these memes about boomers and stuff, and fragile masculinity and everything. Jokes aside, this is where all of that comes.
yeah. No, this is the root
And
cause for all of these
yeah,
actual real problems.
yes,
Like you yeah, no, it's a really good scene and I think it does a lot of
it,
work with not a lot of screen time to really
yes,
put into perspective not just the relationship between Tony and his father, but the
but
relationship
just fathers
between
and sons in general.
fathers and
Yes,
sons in general, yeah. And also between Howard Stark and the idea of fatherhood, which is not something
yes.
that he was ever prepared for, but
No, he was not.
wanted to try his best at regardless. Even
Yeah,
if it wasn't a great
yeah.
attempt,
Even
he
if he
still
didn't
gave
do
it
the best
everything.
job, he gave his A.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I mean, again, going back to my own family, that was how my grandpa was. He
Yeah.
he did not have a good role model as a father, so he didn't know everything he needed to do, but he tried his absolute damn, and he never, laid a hand on any of his children. He loved my grandmother to the moon and back. She truly was the light of his life, and he did the results weren't always the best, but he did, until his body prevented him from it, and until the day he died, he did everything he could in his power for his family. He served his country. He worked, some shit jobs as a car salesman for the better part of 40 years. And I have to apologize. This is me being overly emotional. But
No,
I
no,
mean,
it's
that
good.
was
This scene does that to you. Like
and
it's
I'm
really
sure I wasn't the
strong.
only person who, Howard Stark was my grandpa, was, Frank Brady in this extent. This was my family. And, my dad was the Tony Stark in this, metaphor.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway,
So
maybe
after Tony gets the
we're reading too
Tesseract,
much into this, but it was a great sequence and a great scene. But anyway, while all this is going on, he does get the. And as I was saying before, I went off into my rambling soapbox, which I apologize, that won't be the last one. Um, they end up having this nice little bit where you see a 1970s era Hank Pym, and he's got the original, like, 1962 version of the Ant-Man helmet
which
straight
I
out of the comic
loved
books.
seeing that. I
Yeah,
was so
sitting on the
happy.
desk in there. And he's got a full head of, like Bill Walton Deadhead 70s. And it looks great.
Yeah, no,
Um,
and Michael Douglas, the CG work on him is seamless. He looks
yeah,
exactly like he should in 1970.
yeah, it looks gorgeous.
It's perfect.
So while all this is going on, Cap ends up. I think does he like go into like a record room, or where does he?
So basically, while Tony is taking the Tesseract, since he knows exactly where it is, he gives Steve the task of going to get some more Pym particles so that they can actually get the fuck back.
Mm-hmm.
And he winds up causing like a he calls he calls Hank Pym's office and tells him, like, oh, there's a problem, you got to come down and get it right away. There's like a glowing orange box or something like that, something to get him out of his office.
Yes.
And as soon as Pym runs out, then Steve walks into his office and grabs some Pym particles. So that part of it was like almost effortless for Steve.
Right.
Then what happens is, as he's walking back, the lady that he was in the elevator with, which is Yvette Nicole Brown, who was on Community, another Russo brothers cameo.
Yeah.
She, better known to us 20-somethings as Helen from Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
She like gets security's attention because she didn't recognize either Steve or Tony. And so
Tony's referred to multiple times as a hippie
because of his beard.
Yeah, because this is the 70s. God forbid you have.
Right. So the security starts to look for Steve, and he ducks into an office to get away from them, and it winds up being Peggy Carter's office. So he turns around and looks at the desk, and he sees a picture of himself from the first movie in 1940.
Yeah,
and
on her desk.
And then looks back to the window, and it says Margaret Carter.
Yeah. And clearly, even though she does, we know from, other movies that she moved on.
Yeah, I don't think...
Had a husband, had children. She never got over Steve.
No.
He obviously has never gotten...
No, I think every single, like, act that Steve has ever made in any of these movies has always been...
for Peggy.
For Peggy. Yeah, even if he realized he could never get back there, everything was done because of what she gave to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does get to see her physically too on the other side of this pane of glass. And it's this really beautiful moment where like he's just watching her and realizing like,
how much
this time travel thing.
Yeah.
Like I can just go and see her whenever I want. Maybe there's something to this, and we'll get back to that later.
Yeah, we'll put that. We'll parking lot that for a bit and come back to it.
We'll shelve that one.
Yeah. So they end up getting both stones they need and head back to the present.
Yeah, they get the stones and the Pym or the stone singular and the Pym particles to actually make it back.
So then, meanwhile, in Asgard, Thor and Rocket are looking for Jane to get the stone from her. And while this is going on, Rocket goes to the stone. Thor runs into his mother,
who is supposed to die on that day.
Yeah, this was the day that she died. and Thor's a wreck between
Oh yeah.
knowing that his mom is gonna die and missing all his Asgard friends
And
and
just
failing
being
against
dejected
Thanos.
anyway.
Yeah, he's a wreck.
He's
So
he's a
he
total
actually,
wreck through this whole
so
movie
he,
almost.
yeah, so he runs into his mother, and she basically, gives him the proverbial slap across the face, and just goes like, "Dude, you got to, you can always, get back up after you fail. Like this doesn't have to be the end."
Yeah, no,
And
and she
he's
like gives him the
trying.
best mom pep talk of all time.
Yes, she tries. She tries to, um, he's trying to tell her that something's going to happen, and which is like, I know, because
Yeah.
she at first thinks it's 2013 Thor, but
Oh no,
quickly
she like
discovers it's
is
not.
never
Yeah,
fooled for a
yeah,
second. As soon as she sees him, she's like, "You're not
yeah.
my Thor, are you?" And he
No,
goes, "I'm not from the future." She's like, "I never said future, motherfucker."
yeah, yep, basically. So she gives him this, and it forms a really nice foil to the talk that Howard has with Tony.
Yeah.
And, you know, she gives him this pep talk. She gets him ready to go, and he and Rocket, Rocket gets the stone from Jane off screen actually,
Yeah.
because they couldn't sign Natalie Portman's paycheck. I
They
guess
okay, so the way that they did this, I found
they
out.
ham-fisted some stock footage of her in there.
Yeah, they took like a deleted scene from Thor
Yeah,
the Dark World and then just had Natalie Portman come in and record a couple new lines like ADR.
yeah,
And Rocket basically gets the stone because the purpose of this scene is not to get the stone. The purpose of this scene is to fix Thor and to bring him. And like when I say fix, I don't mean like he suddenly gets buff and cuts his hair and looks great. No, it's like this scene is about helping Thor understand that failure is a part of just being human, being fallible. And
yeah.
like it's okay to fail and everyone does it. You're just like everybody else, Like the difference between you and everybody else is when you fail, Thor, you're going to get back up and you're going to do it better this time and you're going to win. And it's okay that you made a mistake and that's okay. And that it does that so beautifully. And like the thing that I
Now the
like so much about Dude Thor is that he at no point
He takes
ever.
himself exactly as seriously as he wants to be taken, which is
Exactly, yeah,
not seriously at all.
until he finally snaps out of it and then he,
Mhm.
I love at the end of that scene, by the way, when he holds his hand out and there's like a beat, like a 4-second beat, and Rocket goes, "Are we supposed to be waiting for something?" And Frigga goes, "Just give it a second." And then Mjolnir from
Yeah,
2014
he gets
flies into
Mjolnir
the
back.
window
Yeah,
and he grabs Mjolnir and then, thanks his mom and then they go back to present
yeah.
day,
So now he has Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. He's
which is
got both
fucking
the axe
awesome.
and the hammer.
Yeah.
Yes. So they go back, and then back in 2014 in space. So once Rhodey and Nebula get the stone, they head back
Rhodey goes
to.
back, but
Yeah, Rhodey goes
Nebula,
back. Nebula does not. Nebula is stuck, and
she gets
Thanos
captured.
actually captures. And 2014 Nebula takes, because 2023 Nebula has like face plate. She
Yeah,
goes
she
full
has that
see-through now.
bronze like
Yeah,
face accent
yeah. So she takes that from her and replaces it on her own, and basically goes back in place
as a
to,
traitor.
yeah, to infiltrate the future.
Yeah.
So
And
then
while this is happening, Clint and
Clint and
Nat get
Nat,
to Vormir,
yes,
and
and
they basically they walk up to where the the Red Skull is, and he gives them the same spiel that he gave to Thanos in Infinity War, and so they come to realize one of them is going to have to die, and
yeah,
the problem here is that both of them want to sacrifice themselves. Nat, because
Nat,
she
yeah,
finally has found a family that she's willing to give everything for because they gave
yeah,
everything to her, and Clint
and
because
Clint
he's just
because he's
lost.
lost everything. Yeah,
Yeah, no, he's willing to give up his life because he's already lost everything. He has nothing left to lose. But Nat, I think for her, this decision that the Russos made makes so much sense for this character. Like she finally through becoming an Avenger and, you know, having this family and all these adventures that they've gone on, she's finally found her place and had some time to really have a family. And that's all she's ever wanted.
Yes.
And
she's willing to give everything for that family. Now,
yeah.
the one thing I will say, and this goes back into some issues with Infinity War as well. I have heard some people, you know, with the misfortune of her being a female character, you sort of end up with a women in refrigerators situation, which I think in this specific circumstance, for as we've described with this character's motivation, it works.
Yeah.
I think that's more of an issue with Gamora in Infinity War, with Thanos being like, "Oh, I love you, but I abuse you, and that's how I show my love, and I'm also going to show my love by killing you."
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of justify that because, like, he's the villain, and of course,
it also shows how fucking evil Thanos.
Yeah, no, he's not supposed to be making decisions that are beneficial to like social issues. Like, he's the villain.
Right.
If he did, he wouldn't be the villain.
This might also just be like the culture we currently live in, where everything is so politically charged.
Sure, and like that is definitely a trope that I have problems with in a lot of media, but I think here that it doesn't really apply the same way. I think they do it in a way that serves the story.
Yes, I would agree.
Not so much in a way that they're just relying on a trope to have a story beat. Right. Like without
it just so happens to play out.
Yeah.
In a way that could fulfill an unfortunate trope.
Right.
But I don't think that was the intention of the directors, though. But anyway, so Nat and Clint, like, basically scuffle on the side of this cliff. You know, they get in a fight, knock each other down. You know, Clint shoots an arrow at her that explodes. Nat, like, hits him with a grappler and shocks him.
Yep.
And it looks like Clint's gonna jump. Nat
tackles him.
Yeah. And
not just catches him, she tackles him.
Grabs him, and then she finally lets go and falls and dies.
Yeah, and that's it. She never comes back.
Yeah, she does not come back. For all intents and purposes at this point, Black Widow is gone and dead.
Yeah, so and we know that there will be another Black Widow. There will be a Black Widow solo film, but we imagine that's going to be a prequel.
Yeah, that is the predominant thinking of that. It is a prequel.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, with this Phantom Zone generator,
they could like
they've basically created the Dragon Balls.
Kinda, yeah.
They can basically bring back whoever they want. So
and now that like Hank Pym exists again in the present timeline, like he can just make infinite Pym particles until they don't need them anymore.
Yes, exactly. But anyway,
we real comics now.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So they end up. So Clint gets the Soul Stone and goes back. So finally, everyone reconvenes at the initial teleport in the base with all the stones.
Yep, and everybody's got their stones.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we did it," and then they're like, "Wait a minute, where's Nat?" And
yeah, Bruce specifically is like, "Hey, where's Nat?"
Yeah, and they're all not happy. Everyone, she did this for us. We have to fulfill it.
Yeah, so we have to make it worth it.
Yeah, begrudgingly they move on. They load up the stones into an Iron Man gun, basically,
which is so cool.
Yeah, and they're trying to decide, all right, who's gonna snap, who's got to do it, and Bruce is like, guys, I'll do it. I gave it her all. It's time for me to give it mine.
Right, and he's like, by the way,
like gamma radiation. So what can this thing really do to me?
So yeah, he's like, I'm the Hulk, you guys. Yeah. Like, I'll fucking handle it.
Yeah. So he puts it on. He does a snap. It clearly takes its toll on him.
Oh yeah.
But immediately after he does it, Clint's phone starts ringing. And
it's his wife.
So
and birds are outside.
Literally, the proverbial cloud part, and birds start singing. Like Scott goes and looks out a window and says, "Oh, it's so beautiful."
We haven't seen the sun yet.
But it works.
Yeah.
Because this whole movie has been so dark and so grim. Everything, it really is a striking difference.
Yeah.
And then while all this is going on, Nebula, that they don't know is actually 14 Nebula, goes back into the room with the Phantom Zone projector and brings in 2014 Thanos' ship, and right as Scott's standing there looking out the window, it starts to blow the fuck out of the Avengers compound. Like, you actually see Scott getting
Everything.
blown back, and the windows get blown. Like I thought he was. The first time I saw that, I thought he was killed. Like, I
Oh,
thought
me
he was
too.
gone.
I was like,
Yeah,
okay,
I
well,
thought.
there goes everybody. There's no way
Yeah,
anyone's fucking surviving
yeah.
that shit.
So somehow everyone who is in the base gets out. There's this really nice sequence with Clint running, with basically playing keep away with the Iron Man gauntlet
It's
with
straight out of Aliens.
yeah, like
These
with
like the
some
the
of
dogs of
Thanos' dog.
Thanos.
Yeah, and then Scott actually shrinks down right as the explosion hits and saves Rocket, Rhodey, and Hulk from drowning. And then Cap and Tony help each other out.
Yeah.
So they all get out, and uh, so the big three, Cap, Thor, and Iron Man, all kind of converge and meet up with Thanos.
Oh, and
And
then it gets big time
yeah,
real.
and it's on.
A
They start
knockdown, drag
fighting.
out
Yeah,
brawl. It's awesome.
it is fantastic. So
It's everything
you know,
you want it to be.
it looks so good, and like the designs and the suits look great, and we'll get into this more when I talk about Iron Man. But like, he's got a new suit again.
Again.
Thor is still like husky Lebowski Thor, but he now has like a braided beard and like
Yeah, when he
braided
calls the
hair.
thunder for the first time,
Yeah,
like the lightning strikes him and his hair and his beard just instantly Viking
yeah,
themselves out. It's so
yeah.
cool.
And he's got both Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. Got
Dual
missiles.
wielding.
He's not. Yeah, he's not. He doesn't have the suit or the bright blue Avenger suit, and he's got the regular suit back. So they start fighting, and then I can't remember what the specific beat is, but there is a beat where Thor drops Mjolnir, and he's only using Stormbreaker against Thanos, and then out of nowhere, Thanos gets hit with Mjolnir.
In the
It
face.
comes back, and we see that it is being wielded by Steve.
It's the
And
best moment.
everyone in the theater, when I went to see it, started applauding and cheering. I don't know what.
Mine was pretty quiet, but I know Kita and I were both like, "Yo!"
Yeah, it was incredible. And Thor basically was everyone else in the movie. I knew it. And there's a whole moment. Now there was a fan theory that had been circulating, and I first noticed this when I was going back and watching when they have the contest at the beginning of Age of Ultron, where everyone's trying to lift up the hand.
Yeah, it
I
nudges.
thought I thought that Widow was actually going to use it because she
Really?
says to everyone, well, because she says, no, I already, like, that was her saying, I don't want to make you guys realize.
Oh.
Obviously, that's not what happened, but you're right. And I didn't actually catch that until reviewing it a third time after I had already seen Endgame. Steve does just barely budge the hammer.
Yeah, no,
And
I noticed that in the theater when I saw that
yeah,
movie. I was like, "Oh shit!"
and my brother, of all people, actually explained it. He said the reason he wasn't working was because he had been keeping the secret of Tony's parents' death from him. And after
Oh,
telling him that, and they finally resolved anything and were friends again,
now he's
that's what's
worthy.
made him worthy. So that's why he couldn't use it up until that specific. Now, mind you, Mjolnir wasn't there, but that's why it was at that specific moment he was able to use
Wow.
it.
See,
So
that's a lot better than what I thought.
yeah,
Because my like very preliminary thinking out of the theater was like,
it's
well,
fucking Captain America.
he probably couldn't wield it in Age of Ultron when they're doing this like dick measuring contest because he's trying to lift it to prove something and not lift it because he needs it.
Yes,
See,
exactly.
I like that a lot better. Where he was still the secret of Tony's parents' death was still looming over him, and he was keeping that from somebody who really needed to know it.
Yes.
That's a way better explanation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so the fight continues, and then the cavalry starts coming in. Hulk comes back. He's okay. War Machine comes in wearing new armor. Rocket is there. And then we start to see some Doctor Strange portals form.
Yep.
Strange comes in. Black Panther comes in with the entirety of the Wakandan military forces.
It's
like
it's so fucking
an
cool.
entire country full of people.
Yeah.
And I feel so bad. I cannot remember that character's name for the life of me. The chick from Walking Dead. What is her name?
Okoye.
Okoye. She comes in. All of the Sorcerer Supreme characters come in.
Every sorcerer basically ever. Like I think I saw Baron Mordo at one point.
Yeah, all of the Asgardians, all of the Ravagers.
The Ravager ship was in there. Howard the Duck was in there.
Yeah, 2014 Gamora is there. Or you know what it actually is? Captain Marvel comes in and fucks up Thanos' ship, and that's what brings everyone in.
Well, like, they're still raining fire down, and then all of a sudden the ship's cannon stop firing, and they rotate upwards to the sky, and you just see this beam of light.
Yeah,
and then Carol fucking flies through the ship.
Destroys the entire ship.
She doesn't even shoot like a beam at it. She just flies straight through it. It's so good.
This is why you haven't seen. She's so OP.
Yeah.
Like they literally don't need her because she's too strong.
Yeah, and the only thing that actually like gives Thanos an upper hand on her is at one point he does get the gauntlet, and right before he's about to snap it, she punches. She punches him in the face, and then like they fight a little bit.
Pull the Power Stone out and grab it in his fist.
His bare hand, which fucks his hand up.
Stop. Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, she has to take a punch from an Infinity Stone to be stopped.
To get knocked down. Yeah, that's how strong she is. But getting back to the forces coming in, we see all the Guardians come in.
Everybody that was on Titan.
Everyone who is snapped comes in. Spidey's back.
Yep.
And then fucking Pepper shows up in the rescue armor, which looks I'll be honest, it looks nothing like the comic book version, but
I really, really like this version of the rescue armor. It's so good.
It looks
so
really
sleek.
Good. Yeah, it's like blue and it's sleek. It looks great. It contrasts really well with her fucking red hair.
And with Tony's suit, I think they create a really nice yin and yang with their color clashes.
And I'm trying to think, is there anyone that we're leaving? Like literally every character.
Pretty much, literally every single character
shows up.
Yeah. Any non like what am I trying to say here? Any super powered being and or combat ready human comes into this fight because Thanos brings his entire military forces. The four horsemen come back in.
Yeah, Valkyrie comes in full regain.
Oh yeah, with her Pegasus.
Yeah. Falcon is back. Yep. Wanda is back.
And she's pissed.
yeah. Everyone is there, and Cap finally utters a line. He says, "Avengers, assemble!"
And it's so good. It's so good.
It's on. It is by far the greatest large scale fight ever produced in a movie. It's better than the Battle of Endor. It's better than the fight in the last half hour of
Lord of the Rings.
Of Lord of the Rings. It's better than the final fight in Rogue One. Every large scale fight that you've seen in a movie does not hold up to this. It is fucking beautiful. There's so many great sequences. There's a sequence where Tony and Pepper start flying around each other and are shooting everywhere. And
they're perfectly covering each other in perfect sync.
There's this incredible sequence where all of the female Avengers form a line and all just go after Thanos and start fucking him up.
It's awesome.
Peter and Tony have this great moment where they hug it out and they're like, "Yeah, we're back. Everything's great again." Tony has a line with Steven where he says, "Is this the one?" And he says to him, he's like, "I can't tell you, for it to happen." So
For this thing to play out the way that it's
yeah,
supposed to, you
I
can't
can't
know.
tell you. Yeah, uh, uh, Janet Van Dyne and Hank back up, but then what happens is all this fighting is going on. There's so much happening. It's like total sensory overload.
Oh yeah.
In the chaos of everything, they're trying to get the gauntlet away from Thanos and get the stones into the van to destroy them, basically.
Yeah, like
But
basically what they're trying to do is
yeah,
take the gauntlet to the quantum tunnel to send it somewhere in time that Thanos won't be able to find it.
yeah. So, but the van gets destroyed though, so there is no other quantum
Well,
that they have
kind of.
access.
It does work. It's just it's like if this were a football field, the quantum tunnel would be on Thanos's 9. Like
Yeah.
it's basically right next to his ship, and so they kind of have to do what I like, what I kind of recognized as a relay race, where it starts off with one person takes it and they run it as far as they can, and
Yeah.
then someone
Yep.
else picks it up and they take it as far as they can,
Yeah,
and
like they take turns, rotating it. And there's
just
a really
moving it
cute,
down the line. It's like
there's a
football.
yeah, there's a really cute moment between Carol and Peter,
It's
which
my
was
favorite moment in the movie.
Mhm.
I think it might be my favorite moment in the movie. I don't know.
I
It's
can't
hard.
remember. Do you remember what the specific line is?
Um, he has the gauntlet, and he's been
Yeah.
like web swinging, and at one point, Valkyrie he hooks onto Valkyrie, and he's flying through the air, and then something falls and cuts his web line, and so he's like clinging onto the gauntlet, and he falls down, and then Carol shows up in front of him, and he goes, "Hi, I'm Peter Parker. I'm Spider-Man," and she goes, "Well, hey, Peter Parker, I'm Carol. I'm gonna take that from you," and he goes, "Okay, thanks." It's so cute. He's
Yeah, it's
just
a
so
great.
overwhelmed, and I love that this version of Peter. The first instinct that he ever has with anybody in a costume is to introduce
Doesn't tell him his
himself.
full name.
He's so cute. Like he
Yeah,
just has
it's
no
great.
filter at all. He's so innocent.
Yeah, and I really hope that going full talk once we get to the end, I really hope that they build whatever they decide phase 4 and beyond. I hope they build a lot of it around Tom Holland and this version of
Me
Peter.
too. Me too.
Because they finally got it right. They cast someone as Spider-Man who's not like 26 already.
And he's got a lot of room to grow, which is perfect.
They cast someone as Spider-Man who could literally play him for the next 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
Like we could get as many appearances of Spider-Man out of him as we got out of Connery as Bond. Like
Yeah.
that's about where they've got.
Well,
this
and like,
right.
Robert Downey Jr. wasn't exactly young when they cast him as Iron Man, and we still
yeah.
got 11 years out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yup,
same
indeed.
with Chris Evans.
Yeah,
I think we will get more Thor out of this too. I don't think this is the last we'll see of Thor.
Like we could literally get Tom Holland Spider-Man movies until you and I have children that are our age now, roughly.
And it would be great. Like he's such a good Peter Parker.
Yes, he is by far, I think, the best one. If I were to rank them, probably him, Tobey Maguire, and then probably Andrew Garfield, with Drake Bell somewhere squished in between those two. Maybe.
Well, if we're talking animated ones, then it's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I really hope they move forward with him as that character. But anyway, so they end up, the van gets destroyed, so they can't put the gauntlet. But at some point, Thanos gets the gauntlet, but this is when the sequence we were talking about where Carol attacks him.
Yeah.
They get the stones out of it. So then, amidst all the chaos, Tony looks at Steve, and Steven holds a finger up without even saying, like basically signifying like this is it.
This is the one. This is it.
Yeah.
If you don't do this right now, this isn't the one anymore.
Yeah. So Tony then shows up behind Thanos. He puts up his right fist, and all of the stones form on his Iron Man. Like he has the Infinity Gauntlet.
For all intents and purposes, yeah, his Iron Man suit has become the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, which does happen in the comic books. That is comic book. Like
Yep.
a lot of people have had the Like in this, they only have a few with it, but he does have it. And I can't remember the line from Thanos. He's like, like, who are you? I am Thanos. I am a, or,
I'm
something like that.
inevitable.
Yeah, I am inevitable. And Tony looks at him and I am Iron Man. Snaps his finger and literally dusts Thanos' entire force.
Yeah,
Like
and
they
it's
are
a
gone.
great sequence. Like you get to see every like all of the because he warps in the Chitauri.
Yup, he warps in the elves, all the
Yeah,
previous
the Dark
villains from
Elves, the
all.
Sakarans, like
Yeah,
everybody from the previous big team up movies, plus all of his Thanos forces,
yeah.
plus the four children of Thanos, like everybody is in there and they all dust around him and then finally Grimace dusts himself too.
Yeah. God, he is fucking Grimace, isn't
He's totally Grimace, dude.
he?
Complete with nuts action.
Yeah.
And it's
So,
it's such like a triumph, but at the same
yeah,
time, like they've set this up now so that you know the consequences of using that thing. And
right.
at the same time as you're like, yeah, fuck you, like, we won. You're also like, oh no, like Tony's a guy. He's just a
Yeah,
guy.
he's a guy in a suit, and your heart immediately. And they show Tony, and the right side of his
Oh,
body
he's fucked up.
is completely cooked. Like
Yeah.
he is barely alive. And they prop him up against a stone, and he's just kind of sitting there, not really saying everything. He's still alive, but his body is.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely like on death's door.
Yeah. So everyone kind of comes up, and they're trying to get his. Peter comes up to him, and he's Stark. We did it, Mr. Stark. And he does. He kind of looks at him, doesn't really say anything.
He finally does call him Tony. By the way, I caught that.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, and he's crying, and the whole fucking theater is crying.
Yeah, and the entire population of humanity is crying.
Yeah. And Pepper goes up to him, and she says, Tony, and the last thing he says, he just says, that's all he says.
Yeah.
She says, Tony, you can rest.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. And he takes her hand up against the repulsor on his chest, and she kisses him on the cheek, and his hand slowly falls away, and he's
and then
dead.
when the light goes out, then it's like, oh, now you're gonna fully cry.
And this was the big time death that everyone knew was.
Yep.
There was a lot of speculation as to who it was going to be. I thought it was, and we were going to get Sam or Bucky taking over as new Cap.
Well, we'll get there.
We'll get there, but Steve survives. Hulk was hurt by the gauntlet, but he is fine for all intents and purposes.
His arm's in a cast. He'll be okay. Yeah.
But Tony is gone now, and I don't know about your reaction or Kita's reaction, but I literally broke down, baby.
We were both ugly crying
as a 26-year-old man watching movie, and I do not cry when I go see movies. It is a rare occurrence, and
it's pretty rare for me too. But like this movie had me crying often. I didn't just cry at the I cried a lot in this movie. Like I spilled some fucking tears. I was dehydrated when the credits started rolling because I had been crying for the whole fucking runtime.
Well, the whole last you can't get through.
Oh yeah,
some sort of perspiration.
Yeah.
And for me personally, what brought me to that point was not just Tony Stark having a tragic on-screen death. It was everything that character had done for me as a person. Everything that Robert Downey Jr. had brought to the role over the last decade. So for me, Iron Man has always been my favorite, or not always, but for the better part of my childhood and my adult life, he has been a character. My first exposure to superhero and cop probably was the Spider-Man and X-Men animated series, the old Iron Man animated series, Superman Flesher cartoons,
Yeah.
which all spent time on Cartoon Network and the Fox box in the 90s.
Yep.
And, what really got me into comic books when the first Spider-Man movie dropped in May of 2002, I would have been 9 years old, and that movie had a profound effect on me. And wow, I want to know so much more about this character and about this universe. So I started buying comics. I started going to markets and getting old vintage comics. And what actually happened, so my dad gave me his old comic books from the 1970s that he had. Well, actually, it's funny because he claims he was a kid, but he has comics ranging from the late 60s all the way through the late 80s. So he was still buying comics like right around the time he
Exposed.
Yeah, like I was able to date these. I'm like, no, you were buying these like older than I am now. So
You were buying comics in your 30s, Dad. Don't fucking front.
You were buying comics when you had your unlocking legs. So don't even go there. So, but one of the things, and honestly, when he gave me, honestly, to this day, it's probably still one of my favorite gifts he's ever given me. Like I still have
Yeah,
all his comics.
that's priceless.
I've bagged and boarded them. I treasure them, and I will treasure them until the day. He actually, one of the coolest things in that set, he gave me the first 5 issues of Firestorm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, which only existed for those 5 issues. It was canceled.
Yeah, so you have the whole run.
Yeah, and it's one of my treasured possessions I have. But amongst that collection of books, he had about 4 or 5 Iron Man comics dating from the early to mid 70s. So this was my first exposure to the character and to Tony Stark. And I loved those comics. I really liked that character. So in my mind, regardless, being a child of, the early 2000s, the definitive Iron Man to me is the Iron Man of that era, from the late 70s, from the early to mid 80s.
So is that the Demon in a Bottle?
Yes, the Demon in a Bottle stuff. Both the first and second runs by David Nick.
Yeah.
Because they did 2 runs on the book. They did a run from about 1978 through 1983 or 4, and then they did another run from 1985 through 1989. And I've pretty much read and have collected both of those. That is, in my mind, who the definitive Iron Man is. Those versions of the character written by those guys. And as I got more interested in the character, I started getting more books. I got the I got the Armor Wars books. I went back and got the Essential Works books that had the old Tales of Suspense stories from the 60s. I read Extremis when that came out. I read the Matt Fraction stuff when that came out. I went back. I got a bunch of books from the 90s, from the Modular era, when he fought the Mandarin, when he fought. I'm trying to think of all the different, Whiplash and all the different characters. I have Iron Man is a character that I have the most knowledge and the most information about. And
yeah, it's pretty comparable to how much esoteric bullshit I know about Spider-Man.
Yeah, it is like.
Except I think you still have me beat with Iron Man. You know a lot of fucking shit about Iron Man.
I know literally anything and everything there is to know about the character, outside of what's happened in the comics in the last probably 5 to 10 years or so, just because I don't even know what the fuck Marvel's doing.
I don't even think Marvel knows what they're doing with this point with their comics.
No.
This Dan Slott run that's going on right now is pretty cool. But it's gonna get rebooted because everything gets rebooted.
Yeah, nothing. There is no continuity. There is no status. Comics. DC's just as bad.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I absolutely fell in love with this character. And come the summer of 2007, when we first started getting rumblings of the Iron Man movie, I was blown away by this. I'm like, no, they're not doing this, are they? I had previously, the only attempts that had been made, they had the Iron Man animated series, which was okay and had some cool moments.
It was fine.
It was about as normal or standard a cartoon as most other stuff from the '90s
Yeah.
was. It the second season did have a very Iron Maiden. That's that's its own kind of thing. Um, but in 2007, I was a nerdy teenager school who got made fun of for reading comic books about Iron Man,
What's
and that
funny is like I feel like this story is applies to a lot of us.
it really does. I think, but I think for me personally, because I knew who Iron Man was before all this stuff.
Yeah.
So they make this movie, and the original Iron Man is still like
Oh, we watched it
probably
the
a
other
top.
night. It's still fucking amazing.
It's still a top 5 overall film for me. Period, and
Yeah.
probably 3 Marvel film for me at this point. It is that good, and it Robert Downey Jr. brought this character to life. They adapted it so flawlessly, and I didn't know who he was. Being a child of the early 2000s, I didn't know who he was before these movies came out.
Mhm.
So they, so when going back and finding out that he had these substance abuse issues and had been in and out of prison and had to really work to sober himself up and to get himself back into the world, like he was Tony Stark. This
Yeah.
was the demon in a bottle story. This was Tony falling into a gutter and giving the armor to Rhodey, and then only to take it back a year later and reclaim his throne as Iron Man. This was that story played out
Yeah.
in real life. He was this character. He brought him to life. He made it cool to like Iron Man. I went from having people making fun of me for reading these to 10 years later, they're getting tattoos of Iron Man on their biceps.
Yeah, right?
Like,
And a lot of that is because of how much Robert Downey Jr. brought to that role. And how much these movies just being fucking legit
yeah,
like affected the culture. Not just us, not just nerd culture, but like it's cool to like superheroes now. Like
yeah,
we don't have to get made fun of anymore. It's great.
exactly. It's what he did and all of that, in addition to the movie plot beats itself, is why I sobbed like a baby in the
Oh yeah.
theater. Was because it wasn't only the death of a character, but it was the end of something so special and dear to my heart. Meant so much to me, and I'm sure meant so much to many others in similar situations as my own, and what this character did for us.
Mhm.
So, soapbox over.
So let's finish this fucking thing.
Right, so let's wrap this up. So
now we get to the coda of the film.
yeah, so they have a funeral for Tony. Pepper sets, the box that she gave him that said proof that Tony Stark has a heart.
Recased in new glass, by the
Yeah,
way.
that is set afloat in a wreath in the lake outside their cabin. His daughter Morgan, is sitting on the front porch with Happy, and he says, your dad was a pretty special guy. Was there anything? And she's like, I want a cheeseburger. It's like,
I started crying right there.
yeah, oh my god, I fucking love. He's like, your dad really loved cheeseburgers. I'll get you as many cheeseburgers as you want. Okay, harkening back to what he wanted in the first movie when he came back from Afghanistan.
Goddamn American cheeseburger.
Yeah, I want an American cheeseburger. And I forgot to mention this earlier. One of the lines that I think will go down, in the lore of this movie was a line from, when at one point in the movie, early tucking her into bed, he says, I love you, and she says, I love you 3,000.
Well, he says, I love you tons, and she's smart enough to know that a ton is 2,000, so she tops that with 3,000.
Yes. So this, it shows the depth, the bond, the emotion that he's able to stab with this small in just, a short amount.
20 minutes, maybe.
Yeah, because I can't imagine her 4 or 5, maybe.
She has to be. Well, I mean, if we consider, it was a 5-year time skip, she's probably 4 years old.
Yep. something like that. So they fuck, my brain is absolutely fried.
I'll take over.
Yeah. So they move on from that, and they have this funeral for Tony,
And
you know,
everyone is
everyone's
there.
there. Harley, the fucking kid from Iron Man 3,
I was
in the
so
crowd.
happy to see him there.
Yeah.
At first I didn't recognize him, and then I went, "Oh, that's
Yeah.
Harley."
And they have a little funeral for Nat as well, with Wanda and I think Clint are the only ones
Yeah.
in attendance for that, because her identity has to be kept a
Right.
secret, basically.
Yeah.
And so finally Cap says he's gonna go back.
So he's gearing up for like the last final, capstone on this big mission.
Yeah,
He's gonna go and take the Infinity Stones back to where they're supposed to be in their timeline, so those timelines don't become fucked up. And so Hulk and Rhodey and Sam and Bucky hook him up and make sure that he's ready to go. You know where you're going? Yep, he's got everything he needs, and he takes off. And Sam goes, how long is he going to be gone for? And Hulk goes, well, 5 seconds for us, but who knows how long for him. And so, they flip the switch, and he goes, returning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then nothing happens.
Yeah,
and they go, what the fuck? Where'd he go? Where's
Sam's like,
where's
Steve?
Steve?
Bring him back, damn it, bring him back. And then finally, Bucky just goes, Sam, and he looks out across the lake, and there's this guy sitting on a bench,
perfectly silhouetted by the sunset. By the way, it's a beautiful shot.
They walk down, and Sam sits next to him, and it is like a 90-year-old Steve Rogers.
So he looks like he's about 70 years old. We did the math. He's 117.
Yes.
And he looks better than fucking like most 70-year-olds do.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's all related to the super soldier formula.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can almost guarantee. So he's there, and Sam talks to him, and there was a line earlier in the movie, you gotta get some for yourself. And he's Sam sits down to him, and he's like, Steve, how was it? He's like, well, a good friend told me to live a little one, so I thought I'd try a little bit of that. So I sit down, and he's like, well, how was it? He's like,
it was
Steve.
Perfect. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It's like, you want to tell me about her?
Yeah.
He goes, no, maybe I won't.
Yeah. And so then they sit down, and Sam's like, well, I'm sad that Steve's about that. And he opens up a case that has a shield in it, and he goes, I think this is yours now. And he gives the shield to Sam.
He goes, hey, try it on.
Bucky nods in approval. So we know now that Sam is the official successor of Captain America. He is going to be the next Captain America. And it's such a great and profound thing, from a character standpoint, from a race standpoint, from a political standpoint.
Oh, it's perfect.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It works so well.
And I think it works really well. A lot of people said, Bucky should have got it. I disagree. Like, Bucky doesn't want it.
Sam spent more time in the captain suit, if I'm not mistaken, in the comic books, didn't he?
Yeah, but
I'm almost positive Bucky was not Cap for very long.
In the comics, Bucky doesn't stay Captain America for all that long, and this version of Bucky Barnes has been through enough. He does not want to fight anymore. The reason that he joins the fight in Infinity War is it's like, I got to, man. He's like obligated.
He wants to stop the fighting.
Yeah. He doesn't want this anymore. Like, he's been through enough. He's had his brain fucked with for way too long. So like he's more than happy to give that to Sam.
So Sam steps in, and we also see Thor is a new Asgard.
Yep.
And being Lebowski,
he and Valkyrie are basically standing on this hillside.
Yeah, and he gives control of Asgard to Valkyrie. He doesn't want to be king.
Yeah, because
and he
now he
actually, yeah,
realizes what he wants rather than
yeah.
what people
So
want for him.
he goes off with the Guardians. So presumably, whenever Guardians Volume 3 comes out, Thor's going to. And I presume they might look for Gamora because Peter was running a scan of the
Yeah, Quill was
system for where
searching for
Gamora
her
was at. Yeah.
with the map on the ship.
So the Guardians roster now is Quill, is Thor, is
Rocket, Drax,
Rocket,
Mantis,
Drox, Mantis,
and Groot.
And Groot, who is now like a young adult, I
Yeah,
guess,
he's
and then
basically like moved from stubble to like now he can start growing like a shitty beard.
Yeah. So basically me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So Groot's
So
Scott Brady,
yeah. Absolutely. Voiced by Vin Diesel.
voiced by Vin
Motion
Diesel,
captured by
just like Scott.
voiced by Vin Diesel. Motion captured by me. I really. Um, and then you have. So it should be noted we don't know what happened to 2014.
No,
She came
she
through and
disappeared
she was
somewhere.
part of the final battle because
Yeah.
we don't see her get dusted, so we don't know what happened to
No, she fucked off.
her. And
Presumably after she meets up with Quill on the battlefield,
yeah,
and he's like, "Oh, Gamora, you're back," and she's like, "Who the fuck?" She like kicks him in the nuts twice,
yeah.
and Nebula's like, she comes up to her, and Gamora goes, "Is he the one?" And Nebula goes, "Unfortunately," and Gamora's like, ugh. And she like has
Yeah,
this
he's
look
like,
of
your other
disgust on her
option was a
face.
tree.
Yeah, your other option was a tree or a raccoon. It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So she
So
fucked off somewhere. So I
yeah,
imagine that Guardians 3 is going to be chasing down Gamora and then
right.
probably some shit with Adam Warlock because he was
Yeah.
teased at the end of Guardians 2.
Yes. That was the other thing because I thought it's that's something else they're going to assume unless it goes the same way of the Sam Stearns tease in Hulk.
Yeah,
But
could be.
that's a whole nother can of worms.
I guess we'll find out after James Gunn
Yeah.
finishes working on the Suicide Squad.
Yep. So now one other thing too is Hulk said, I can't remember who he says it to. He said back.
Oh no, you cut off.
Am I? Hello? Can you
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, I can now.
Okay. So he says at one point, he says that he tried to back. So presumably she is dead, but
Nat's gone for good, as far as we know.
Yeah, it's possible. I think in my mind that she did come back, didn't show up though, and fucked off somewhere because she's mad.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna guess it's more likely that she is dead, and whatever forward is a prequel or a clone or Lord knows what else.
Right.
So.
I think the when they announced the Black Widow solo movie, they wanted to take a look at her past.
Yes, because
so I feel like that's what's gonna be the plot of that, and it'll take place probably before Iron Man 2, and we'll get to see like her training and hell, we might get to see Budapest.
Yeah.
I would love to see Budapest. They keep fucking talking about shit that happened in Budapest. I want to know what the fuck happened there. So who knows?
Yeah.
But lots of exciting stuff in the future. This serves as such a great way to both close an era and open a new one at the same time without either of them feeling cheated.
Right. Oh. The final thing that we do see, the final scene and the final credits. So we do see when Steve leans over and hugs Sam, him the shield, we do see that he has a wedding.
He like shakes his hand and there's a close up on his wedding finger.
So it then shows what I'm guessing is 1940s or 50s era Brooklyn. We see a house, there's a record player, and in that house are Steve and Peggy dancing in each other's arms, and it is just like the most beautiful and
it's
gorgeous
so serene
scene. They could have ended everything.
Yeah.
And it goes to credits from there. And they pull a start. now I don't know Star Trek. I've been informed this from other people, but I guess at the end of one of the Star Trek movies, when a bunch
I
of the main
think it was
cast was departing,
Generations, because that was
yeah,
the one that had
they had a
both
bit where
the original
all the
cast
characters,
and the Next
yeah,
Generation.
yeah, all the characters got a send off and they sign their name. That's what they do. They give a credit for every single character, basically from every single,
Yeah.
and they 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 end up. I mean, the credits last like they're pretty long because they go through literally
Oh yeah, no.
and
All of the main, like, all of the named like hero characters get their own like title card with a
their own
graphic,
shot,
with a
yeah,
moment
and
that it's not just a shot, it's like a full moment.
yeah,
Like we get to
yeah,
see, and they
and
save
they
all of the first round
they
Avengers
save
for the
for
end.
last, yes, because basically all those characters, other than Hemsworth and I think maybe Portman, all of them their contracts were up after,
Yeah,
which is
but we
why.
know that Renner's gonna do a Hawkeye show where he passes the torch,
Yes,
and
yeah,
but I mean, this is probably the last time that we're gonna see
all these
everybody
characters
but
together.
Thor in a
Yeah.
movie. I mean, Hulk probably will show up again,
Hmm.
but like Thor and Hulk are it as far as I know.
Yeah.
Because
So
I don't
there's
think Renner's gonna be in another movie. I think he'll pass the
right.
torch to Kate Bishop,
Yeah.
and she'll be in the
Yep.
movies after this.
Hmm. So that, and there was no post credit scene.
Nope.
Um, and Spider-Man: Far From Home is going to be final movie for Phase 4.
Yep.
So I'm not 100% sure who all will be in that. I know Fury's in that. I think.
Fury
Um,
and Agent Hill are both in that.
yes. Um, so we'll see how that plays out. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, this was based like if they wanted to end the MCU, they could have this film.
They could have, yeah. And like
And
if everybody like that was unsatisfied with this wanted to, they could pretend that this is the last one, because
yeah,
it's a
this is it.
really effective send off.
They tied up just about. Now
Yeah.
from here, there are a ton of different directions you could go
Oh
in.
yeah. And
The
they've
thing that
got
makes me
like 8 films planned over the next 3 years.
the thing that makes me a little bit nervous is it really they're trying to play up Disney Plus, which I'll be honest, I have zero interest in shilling out money for.
That's fair.
Like I know how the game works, with streaming services and everything, so I get it. But I, because I watched the first season of Daredevil. That's it. I haven't watched any of the other Marvel TV stuff.
They're good.
And I mean, you're right. They're not bad.
Like Daredevil is the shining example of them, but I mean
Yes.
Jessica Jones is also really good, and I think the
Yeah, I
Punisher
know.
was like fucking
Yes.
astoundingly good.
Yeah, Angelo. I know Angela watched Jessica Jones, and she also watched a little bit of Agents of Shield, and they all had decent bits and decent
Yeah,
parts. But
that one's on
well,
like real TV. Agents of Shield
yes.
is on like NBC or whatever,
Hmm.
ABC.
So we'll see where they go from here. If they decide to films or on Disney Plus, I think it ultimately depends on what makes them the most money.
Mhm.
Um,
And we know that this movie like is going to literally shatter the box office.
I would guess once this is out of theater, it is going to finish at the leaderboards for basic. The only thing is the inflation adjusted for the era record that Gone with the Wind set back in the 30s.
Yeah.
That's the only one I can see it not dethroning. Other than that, it's going to top Titanic. It's going to or top Avatar. James
Oh.
Cameron can go, fuck himself with a pike at this point because he's not going to have the record anymore. So he can go make another shitty movie to try
Wow.
and top it if he wants.
So I just looked at the
early returns.
The first weekend international return is $1.2 billion global.
Oh, wow, that's.
Fuck.
I'm assuming that's a record.
Yes. Yeah,
And
that's
like significantly a record.
Oh yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
incredible.
that's that's no joke. It's already in the top 20 of all time, and it's been out for 4 days.
Holy shit, that's
So, I mean, this fucker's got legs. We know
yeah.
it does because Infinity War had massive legs.
Hmm.
Infinity War
And
finished at number 4 of all time, by the way.
wow,
So, um,
yeah, and it's gonna keep climbing,
yeah,
I would guess.
yeah.
Um, so I know they have what's the character? Not Quan Chi because that's the
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi. Yeah, that's the next movie they're gonna do, Phase 4.
I know they're
You
fast
know,
tracking it. I don't know if it'll be
yeah.
the next one, but I know they're
Obviously,
working to get it
yeah.
out quickly.
Obviously, there are rumblings about a Black Widow movie.
Yep.
I've heard talk of a new Cat movie with Bucky and Sam. That could be
That'll be a
interesting.
series on
Or
Disney Plus.
that's a series. Loki's gonna get a
Yeah. So
um,
there's a lot of
oh,
shit.
that's the other thing. Vision did not either. I forgot to
Yeah.
mention
No,
that.
Vision doesn't come back. So
He
the
is also
the
gone.
Scarlet Witch and the Vision show that they're gonna do is gonna take place in the past sometime.
Yes. Do you think they would try and do a do you think they would try and do an
Oh, what?
Avengers disassemble, or do you think
Oh, I thought that that was going to be where we went after Civil War. I honestly thought that that was gonna be like the next step after Civil War was gonna
I
be
would guess
Avengers
they're not going to
Disassembled.
go on that direction just because so many of the characters from that like aren't going to be around
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Like that was Hawkeye's big death
yeah.
in the comics was that, and I'm assuming they're like at this point that wait. Um, and there's no reason to do a disassemble really. I mean, I would guess one of the next steps because now that Marvel to X-Men and Fantastic Four with X-Men wrapping up with Dark Phoenix, I would imagine they might explore those properties next.
Yeah, they
And
could. I think it would be wise to give X-Men some time.
yeah, and I
Um,
think Fantastic Four is still kind of like they might as well keep their distance from it for a while just
yeah,
because it's been fucked over royally so many
so
times
often.
and so abysmally too.
Yeah.
Because like there's no reason to do a Galactus crossover.
No, no.
Like
Like that's that
I
that would be
originally thought
unnecessary to me.
because like Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the animated series, that show built to a Galactus crossover. So I thought at one point that might be where these go, but they're not going to do that, and there's no reason. Um, so we'll see where they decide to go ad nauseum. There are so many directions they could go. Oyster. Um, so in summation, was there anything that you did not like about the film?
Whew,
Having had time to reflect, because I know we touched on some minor complaints
I have like
with Black Widow, and going back to Infinity War with more side of that. Like, is there like I know there were some people. I know I was watching a review that and wife did after they saw it, and he mentioned there was some stuff that kind of defied logic, but with the Russos at the helm, it makes more sense to go with emotion logic, and it works.
yeah,
I would agree
and
with that sentiment.
honestly, I don't care. Like I know that
Yeah,
sounds like silly or whatever, but like these
it
movies
does not bother me.
no, like these movies are about like people that can fly and shit. So logic to me doesn't really have any kind of importance, honestly. The thing that I think when plot holes start mattering is if you're sitting in the movie theater and you go, "Hang on, wait a minute. What?" That's when
Yeah,
it starts to become a problem.
and
But if you
and
have to
I
think
I
about
did
it and
not do
nitpick it
that.
after the
Yeah,
fact, then shut the fuck up and have fun with it.
right. I would agree with
Like
that.
movie magic to me defies nitpicking.
Hmm.
And I think
And
they pulled the rabbit out of the hat with this one time and
Yes,
time again through the whole 3 hour runtime. So
and
I
that's the other thing. The runtime did not bother me in this.
oh no,
Like
not at all.
I
It went
didn't
by pretty
not feel
quick,
like I
honestly.
watched a 3 hour movie. You were, it wasn't too hard to follow. It was fairly fast paced, even
Hmm.
with a giant fucking time skip. Like
Well,
it,
and they also had these really beautiful moments where the pace could slow down and they could have these
yeah,
like
it had its moments to,
character defining
yeah,
moments to breathe, and it was really nice. I think they
yeah,
handled the pace about as well as they could.
yes, they really did a good job.
But yeah, I don't know.
And
Like I've been trying to think about like anything in the moment that I thought could have been done differently or could have been
yeah,
done
there
better.
there
And
really there really isn't a whole lot to dislike
personally,
or
yeah, I
to
don't have
pretend
anything,
to
man.
dislike about this movie. Like it was
Yeah,
just,
I got nothing.
yeah, it's it was just done, so beautifully and so perfectly. And as I said, tie everything back together. This is
Uh oh.
the greatest film I have ever seen in my life. And
That's see,
upon
that's huge
yeah,
praise.
upon further reflection, now mind you, I'm like I've seen a lot of movies, but I'm not exactly what I might call a film critic per se.
No,
You're
I'm not
probably a
really a
little bit
film critic either. I just like
you're
movies.
right. You're probably a little bit closer to that and a little bit more knowledgeable that
I've
I've
definitely seen more movies than you have.
yes, and I mean like I've seen all of for the most part. I've seen all the great classics. I've seen Citizen Kane.
Yep.
I've seen Ferris Bueller's Day. I've seen Star Wars. I've seen Harry Potter. I've seen all the major pop culture touchstones. I've seen Rudy. I've seen Remember the Titans. I've seen all
You
the
have a
majors.
vast
Yeah,
like a wide swath of things that you've seen, but like what you're saying is you're not like a film buff.
no, like if you ask me like to name like 12 films and don't expect half of them to be superhero,
Yeah.
like that's just kind of where I'm at. So I don't know if I would say it is definitively the best film I have ever seen in my life, but as of this moment, after reflecting, it is definitely in that conversation for me. And at the least, I would probably rank it third on my all-time list personally.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
that's
for
about where I rank.
me, like this tops my list of the Marvel movies.
Oh, by far, it absolutely does. It's better than the original Avengers. It's better than Cap 2. It's better than Ragnarok. It's better than Black Panther. It's better than original Iron Man. It is definitively and not even close number one. And that's including the fact that it's technically fractured into two Infinity. Like
Sure, but even if
you
you
can
just look
watch
at this
Endgame
one,
as a standalone, and it is number one, and it's not close. It is
yeah.
that good and that well crafted.
And I mean it earns that because they have had to build to this. You know,
Yes.
if this was just a movie that they put out without all these prior movies building up to it and these characters that we've spent, up to 10 years with,
Right.
like it
Yes.
wouldn't mean this much, but because we have this history with these people, it's like
We've been on this journey with them for over a decade.
and it
Got to see them
feels
grow.
earned. Everything that
Yeah.
they
There,
strove to
there,
include,
there
like
is closure. There is payoff. This is why Marvel has succeeded in this venture and DC has failed.
yeah.
DC saw to go off on a bit of a tangent. DC saw the sales figures from Avengers and went, you know, sweet mama jamma, I want some of that, I want that back. So they put out Man of Steel, which for me is a bit of a guilty pleasure, but I recognize that it is a flawed film and has a lot of issues with it. Um, they put, you know, they immediately jumped into Batman v Superman and went, "All right, we've got these characters together. We're making a new Batman, and it's Ben Affleck, and it's weird, but we're doing it. And oh, by the way, here's Wonder Woman, and oh, by Day, and oh, we're making a Justice League movie next year. You're like, wait, what? And Justice League was a fucking train wreck. It was horrible. Like, and now they're trying to backtrack and do the individual movies. Wonder Woman was really good, but even that still had some issues for me. Like, I genuinely really like it, but it still has some issues. Freaking Aquaman, I haven't seen. From what I've heard, it was fun, but the plot is a mess. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, I still haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I have not yet seen Shazam. I've heard mixed things about Shazam. I don't even know what they're trying to do with that. Cavill and Affleck are already both out as Batman and Superman. Like, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
So, like,
and now we've got like
so
movies that are not even related. Like the Martin Scorsese Joker movie is not related in any way.
No, it's like its own thing, and you don't know what they're gonna do with that. Suicide Squad was an absolute train wreck.
And it's getting like soft rebooted as well as a Birds of Prey movie.
Like, honestly, DC,
it's a mess.
Like, I hate to say it, they need to, honestly, they just need to get out. They need to stay away from it. Go do, like, they need to do something completely like now would be the time to go do a Static Shock movie if you want to do a comic book movie.
And if I'm being honest, now would be the time for them to lean really hard into animation and go big with their because they've always done animation way better than Marvel ever has.
Honestly, Marvel might have finally caught up to them on that with Enter the Spider-Verse.
Oh my god, you're right.
Marvel finally caught up to them in animation after pushing them for years and years, quite getting there. They finally beat them, and I don't know if DC can come back because they've got all their straight to DVD releases they've been doing. What was the last really big one of those?
Oh man, I don't know.
Because I
haven't seen one in a long time.
Because I've followed those pretty closely, and there were definitely some of those that I liked and think did well sales, and like some of the more recent ones, like they did an adaptation of Gotham by Gaslight that was really good.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I was always pretty interested in watching that.
Yeah, that one was good. We'll have to check that one out together because I do, so we can watch.
Okay, cool.
You can give me your thoughts on that. Batman Samurai was interesting visually and was a different idea, but it basically was like if someone wrote a fanfic and made it into a movie. Like, the plot was just all over the goddamn place, and at the end it was kind of a mess. Like, I enjoyed it for what it was, but it wasn't anything truly special or groundbreaking. And then I watched the Batman and Harley Quinn movie, which I thought, okay, maybe Bruce Timm has figured it out. The Killing Joke was a mess. Maybe this wasn't that great either. It really, Angela and I watched it hoping for a good movie, and it wasn't bad, but like it was mediocre, like at best. There were some bits or some moments good, but it just, and I don't know if it's just because they couldn't get Arlene Sorkin back or if it was other things, but like DC is an absolute train wreck outside of the comic. Like, in a way, they weirdly their comic side of the business straightened out after they reneged on the New 52. But then now everything else is fucked up.
I don't know, man. I don't feel like they are doing things that they want to do. It feels like they're doing things to catch up to Marvel, and
and that's the
this is true of anything. Like, they can't work from a place of trying to come back. They have to do something that feels right to them, and fuck the profits, like fuck the sales projections. Just do something that they're passionate about, and make things that that cater to the people that have been there reading that shit forever.
So to use a baseball metaphor, the Marvel has basically been like the Cardinals or the A's or even Cleveland or the Astros or one of the really teams that got into the sabermetric game really early. Whereas DC has basically been the like late aughts to like early to mid 2010 2000 Twins who just or Minnesota Twins who just could not figure their shit out and were playing catch everyone until like last year basically. Like
Yeah, that makes
that
sense.
is like I don't know how many people listening to this get that. It is a bit backwards and
That's
convoluted.
that's a very Scott analogy.
But I mean, my point is they are so far behind the eight. They have spent the better part of 2 decades trying to play catch up with. Like, really, the only thing DC, in the last, I don't know, say 20 years, basically, the Nolan movies were fantastic. But other than those, what else have they done that they're
Yeah, no, in this new universe that they've been trying to build,
the Titan
Wonder
stuff
Woman.
has been a mess. Like trying to, I really liked Young Justice, but I'm not even gonna get to watch it because it's gonna be on their fucking subscriber server, which I'm
Yeah,
paying for. I'm
which I
sorry, I'm
I
not buying
don't.
it to watch one show.
Right.
Like,
Like I'll honestly I'll get Disney Plus because it's only $7 a month and it has a shitload of shit on it. And to me that's like a
right.
decent.
In fairness to that, there is gonna be more than one.
But like the
So
DC
that
Universe thing, like fuck that.
no, it can go. It can go.
Even with all
So
the comics it comes with, it's like what? I don't care, dude.
it's like I already own half of these on my hard drive from when I was in. So no, but yeah. So
Yeah, I don't know what more we can say about Avengers Endgame though.
yeah. What has it been like?
2 hours, 2 hours and 15
2 hours?
minutes.
Yeah. Um. I mean,
We recapped the plot. We talked a lot about how much we loved it. We
what it
tried
meant
to
to us, where they could go from here.
we tried
Yeah.
to find anything that would that could
Literally
be a
nothing wrong
quibble.
with it. Yeah. Roger Ebert, 2 thumbs up. Rotten Tomatoes, 100% 5 stars, 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, I
Hell,
could talk
12 out
about
of 10,
like
whatever you want to call
I
it.
could talk about the criticisms that I've been hearing from people, but like I can't represent their arguments
If you don't agree with them,
accurately,
which neither of
and
us
I wouldn't.
probably do, I would guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. If I wanted to really talk about problems people had with this, I would just talk to them straight up,
Mm-hmm.
and not misrepresent what they're saying because I mean, like
And
just
it's
because
fine.
I didn't have a problem with it doesn't mean other
Right, that
people
doesn't mean
didn't,
someone
and they're
else does.
valid.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, people might be looking, you and I truly as the truest of fans, honestly. We're not like there are people who are looking at this critically and are looking to find things wrong with it.
Oh yeah,
That is
no,
not what we're trying to do. And
I
that's
mean,
okay
I'm
if that's
watching this
what they want to do.
as right. I'm watching this as a person who started reading Spider-Man comics when he was 6 years old. So
Yes,
like
exactly.
these movies to me are exempt from a critical eye from me. Like I'll
Yes.
watch other films and watch them with a critical eye and think about them critically, but
Mm-hmm.
honestly, dude, when it comes to these movies, these Marvel movies are in the purest form of fan service, and like I love this shit. I've loved
Yeah.
this shit for like 21 years. Like it's hard
Mm-hmm.
for me to turn my blinders off and
Yeah.
to pay attention to things that I might not otherwise catch. But like, I I don't begrudge anybody who has a problem with it. I really just want to enjoy this thing.
I think what really does it for me, if you would have told me 15 years ago that I would one day be watching a movie that was a superhero comic book movie that featured a talking all CGI raccoon as a major player, that featured prominent
Voiced
female
by an
players.
Oscar-nominated actor, by the way.
Yes, with Sam Jackson as the progenitor of all of this. I would not have believed you. I
No,
would
no,
not,
not
and
at
I don't
all.
think
If you go
anyone
back
would.
in time and talk to 6-year-old me and say, hey kid, one day you're going to sit down in a movie theater and watch the 22nd Marvel film in the line of a cinematic universe that they built for over a decade, and in that movie is going to be every single hero you might be able to think of right now with your 6-year-old brain, plus a talking raccoon, plus eight incredibly powerful women, one of which is stronger than the big bad guy, and the only reason that
One
he
of
can knock her
which
out is because he has a
one of
magic
which
stone.
is literally the strongest character in the universe.
Yeah, and the other of which is the Scarlet Witch. like, and we know how strong she is.
Yeah, one who is the strongest in the universe, and one who can literally break the universe.
Yeah, and you'll get to see Spider-Man, carry the Infinity Gauntlet across a battlefield where the entire army force of Wakanda is fighting the Chitauri, and Ant-Man is sitting in a van with a time machine to the past that he's trying to get. Like, my 6-year-old brain would explode. Like,
yeah,
we are
caused us to have a literal.
Yeah, no, we are beyond lucky to be living in this timeline when we get to see this kind of magic happen on the big screen. And in a time that's so fucked up politically and socially, like,
yes.
Let us have this, man.
Yeah, no, this is it is a great it truly escape, and what Marvel has accomplished with this franchise and with this movie, it's astounding and it's unprecedented, and lots of other words that are multisyllabic.
And it makes me feel a little better about Disney being the most gigantic monopoly that's ever been with regards to
for all intents and purposes, this doesn't probably.
Yeah.
Like I think that is a solid argument potentially to make their financial back. It doesn't get to this. Now I don't know that, and I'm not saying that as hold up Disney on a pedestal, because I do that.
Right, yeah.
But I think it is a fair point to make that potentially without them, we don't get this movie.
Oh, absolutely we don't. And it's like at least with their endless, bottomless pit of money, like, Disney did something with Marvel. And they did something bold. They took big swings.
Well.
And they connected. Like, it worked.
Yeah.
Now, is that streak gonna keep going? We don't know. But for right now, we got a decade of incredible movies.
Like, eventually they might run out of. Eventually, at some point, inevitably, they're going to stinker.
Yeah, but we had a great ride.
Yeah, we'll just have to see where it goes from here. And that's been our TED Talk for today.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yeah. Subscribe to the Patreon. I don't have.
Yeah, the Patreon that not there of us have.
Read comics.
Yeah, because I think that's the biggest takeaway from this. Like, if at this point you still haven't gone back to the source material, do yourself a favor and do it.
It's a joy. It's daunting. I totally get that, but pick a timeline, or pick a period of time. 70s, 80s, 90s, early aughts.
Go read Silver stuff from the 60s that Stan pioneered. Read the continuation of that through the 70s and 80s. Go read both the lowlights and highlights of the 90s, the best of the best, and the Rob Liefelds of the world that just made utter dog shite. Go read that. Go read the Renaissance of the 2000s, as well as the ultra dark and gritty murder that also accompanied that era. Just read all
Just
Read
read comics,
all of
man.
it.
It's a if you get any kind of joy from seeing these movies, there is an entire like 60 to 70 year treasure trove of shit to read, and it's beautiful. There's so much
Yes.
good. And sure, you gotta weed through some bad, but there's so much good.
There's there's more good than
I would say there is definitely more good than bad. And it's not like now that we have the advent of digital comics, it's never been easier to get into comics.
I would agree. I would agree with that because I am a recent digital convert.
I I
Give me the book,
I
and I
started getting into digital out of necessity because I couldn't find a comic shop near me,
right.
and I've been reading Walking Dead digitally for like 5 years.
Hmm.
It's like it works, dude. It totally
Yeah,
works.
it does. I just made a comics out this past summer, and
It's a beautiful
I'm
thing.
about ready to I'm about ready to sign up for Unlimited just because to it. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I've read so much comic history in my time on Comixology, and the short period of time that I had Comixology Unlimited, uh I read so much in that 1 month
hmm.
free trial that it was insane.
Yeah,
Like if you have Amazon Prime, I think you get a month of it for free,
something like that.
maybe. But definitely like the takeaway from us filleting Avengers Endgame for 2.5 hours is we love this shit because we grew up reading comics like this. So if you want to love it like we do, go read some comics. It will be a wonderful time for you.
Yes.
And if you already are reading comics, read more
Yeah,
comics.
read more. If
Like
you're a parent, share it with your kids.
share comics with your kids, share
If
them
you're
with
a
your loved
grandparent,
ones.
share it with your grandkids.
If
Like,
you're a kid, share it with your parents. Like this is
yeah,
modern
it works.
mythology,
It
dude.
works all ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Like this is our pantheon.
yes. You know, these are the modern god, modern
Right. I
of our
mean,
era.
the ancient Greeks and Romans told stories of gods in order to teach lessons and to inspire people to be better. That's what superheroes do now.
Pretty much.
Like, we hear the term, or we hear the phrase, with great power comes great responsibility, and that doesn't just mean Spider-Man to us. That's a
That's
creed
everyone.
to
That's
live your life
everything.
by.
Yes. Mhm.
Like that's what I learned from comics back in when I was a kid, to never to never let injustice stand if you can do something about it. And
Right.
and that's what this is all about, man.
Yes. That's what these last decade of worth of movies have done.
Right.
It's
And
been an
it's
incredible ride.
now that we're seeing, little kids um get into this stuff because they have heroes that look like them up on screen. We've got,
Yes.
we when Black Panther came out and made $1 billion, it was like,
Representation is so important, and
thank God.
these movies have shown
Oh
that.
my
And
God, yeah. No, when you
the
see
wheels are finally turning. They're
finally,
finally starting to
finally,
get it,
yes,
and
no, it only took,
it's a very big deal.
decades, but like we're
Better late than never. At the end of the day,
yeah, I agree. But we're seeing, little girls with Captain Marvel costumes on, and little girls dressing up like Shuri, and little boys with Black Panther stuff on, and there's gonna be a Black Captain America. Like that's huge.
yes,
Like
that
the
is a very
representation has never been better, and it's still improving.
mm-hmm.
It's great. We're in a great creative time right now, and I'm very happy.
Yes, very much so. So we appreciate you letting us almost 3 hours of your time.
Two and a
Whenever,
half at the very
yeah.
least.
Hmm. We should probably
Yeah, we
wrap
should stop
this up.
rambling before we eclipse the runtime of the movie that we're talking about.
Yeah, probably. Are there any final thoughts from you? Anything else that you
Um,
wanted to mention?
I'm gonna watch all of these again.
Yeah, me too.
for the rest
Every
of my
single
life.
every single one of them on loop while I'm
Yep,
at work. I will
pretty
get nothing
much.
done. Yep.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I just want to say thank you to the Russo brothers, to Kevin Feige, to Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson and everybody who was in the crew, everyone who worked on any CG shots, anyone who was a writer,
The artists, the
Marcus and McFeely,
choreographers, the composers.
all the stunt doubles, the PAs, the craft service, literally everybody who worked on these and made this thing come to life over the past 10 years. It has meant everything.
The late great Stan the Man, Avi Arad
Yep. Yep.
from
I
top to
mean,
bottom.
Stan was in every single one of these, and it wasn't. It never really felt like a Marvel movie until you got that cameo, and
No, and he was in every.
and we would not be having this conversation without him.
Yeah, it all started with him, and it's just incredible work.
And
So
everybody who created these characters, everybody who drew them over the years, we cannot be more grateful to these creative giants.
Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, Don Heck,
John Romita.
Yeah, John Romita, the whole bunch.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think we should call this.
Yeah. What more could we possibly say?
Yeah. Thanks again. As we mentioned at the very beginning of this, we don't know when this is going. We're going to posting it until what? Probably in a week, maybe.
I think I might post it. Yeah, I'll probably post it next Saturday.
That probably sounds good. All
so
right.
This will go up sometime in early May.
All right. So greetings and farewell from the past. We can't wait for you to hear this, and thanks again.
And Excelsior.